Alrighty, welcome everyone. For those who celebrate it, I hope you've had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend so far, and of course, likewise to those who don't. Welcome to Going Places, the closest thing you can get to a speedrun travel show. We'll be going around the world looking at region-exclusive games, as well as games that we use to mitigate the monotony of travel on our mobile devices or handheld consoles. We had a wild ride last week with a whole host of wonderful Japanese PlayStation 1 exclusives. So if you missed that and fancy catching it, you can find the VOD of that show on the Games Done Quick YouTube channel, with highlights also being posted on the Games Done Quick Best Segment channel. This week, however, we are on the move. We are donning our hard hats, running, jumping, spinning, and slamming our way through Super Mario Maker for the 3DS, courtesy of Charbunny. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this run, I've got to say.
Well, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to it too. I hope all of you watching are as well. As Hypnotic said, my name is Charbunny. I'll be running Super Mario Maker for Nintendo 3DS. With me today, I have Bloxy. Bloxy, would you mind saying hello?
Hello. Yes, I also run this game, even though I haven't in a long time.
It's a really fun game. So today we're playing a game, and this is on the 3DS. So here's my 3DS, proof that this is a mobile game. Can confirm I've been playing it at random places all week long for practice. But most people may be more familiar with the Wii U version of Mario Maker. They did actually make one for 3DS, but there are some crucial differences between the two versions. Most importantly being, you cannot search for levels from your favorite creators, and you can't actually upload your levels to the internet. So it was really sad when I learned that after buying this game, after being so excited to play it. But as a consolation prize, Nintendo actually created 100 custom-built levels for this particular game, making it one of the longest Mario games. It's got like a ton of levels in it. What we're going to be showing today is actually two different modes. We're going to be showing Super Mario Challenge, which is what I have up on screen right now. This is going to be 88 levels across 18 worlds of the game. This has 18 worlds. And then as a bonus, after that run finishes, we're going to be showing off World 19. So we've got lots of Mario action for you. I hope you're all ready to go. Hypnotic, Splunksy, are you both ready to go?
Aye, aye.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's do this then. Time will start when I hit start, which will be in 3, 2, 1, go!
Good luck.
Yay.
Thanks. I always get so excited hitting the start button. It always makes it feel so real. So this is Super Mario Maker for Nintendo 3DS, Super Mario Challenge mode, any percent. This is technically the story mode of the game, but I'm putting story in the loosest sense of the word. Our real story is these characters across the bottom of the screen who'll be chatting with us between levels. Here is our one cutscene to set up the fact that Princess Peach has been kidnapped. Woo! All right, hope you're caught up. But really what this game is designed to do, and these levels are designed to do, is teach you how to create your own Mario levels. It's all about teaching the player the basics of level creation, level design, and the first thing to know about that is it's okay to copy paste. So there's quite a few levels in this game that are going to be borrowed from previous Mario titles across 4 or 5 different Mario games. There are a few differences. You might have spotted a one-way gate in the bottom of that level due to the fact that not all the levels can actually use the physics from the original game. So there will be a couple differences, and that means that even though Nintendo copy-pasted the levels, we can't actually copy-paste the speedrun techniques. All of the speedrunning for this game had to be routed specifically for this set of levels, which is pretty cool. But that's sort of the first level. It's very standard. It lets you know that yes, this is a Mario game. And then level 2 is where we find out this is a Mario Maker game. Because that's where we get into traditional Mario Maker level design classics, such as stacking enemies randomly on top of each other, because that's a fun thing to do. And of course, something that's also a Kaizo classic, we start to get invisible blocks that you need to hit in order to proceed. Now, conveniently, when Nintendo does this compared to your average level creator, they do put little coin icons and indicators to let you know where to jump. If you've ever been stumped in a Mario Maker level by a dev block or dev exit, you know the frustration of hidden blocks without any signaling, but Nintendo usually does a pretty good job of letting you know what's coming up. So far we've seen 2 levels in this game already. They were both from the original Super Mario Bros. Theme. This game actually has 4 different themes to it. So there's the original Super Mario Bros., there's Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, and this next one, which is New Super Mario Bros. U. Mario actually gets a 3D remake in this, so he looks all nice and polished. Except I'm playing on a 3DS and it's only got so much power, so we got a little bit of pixelation even in this 3D environment. Crucially though, all of the physics with Mario's running speed, jump height, all of that, come from this final theme. So this theme actually dictates the physics of all of the different levels, which is why we can't copy all the speedrunning strats. We do have different physics than the original games where these levels might appear to be from. So you can help me spot the differences on this next level. This next level is 1-4 from the original Mario Brothers game, but there's a couple things we have to do differently speedrun-wise. So if you're familiar with that very famous speedrun, you'll notice we have to do a little bit more waiting. So there's two crucial things here. The first one is that we're gonna have to wait for this first set of fire bars, and the next one is we don't get frame counters or frame rules, so the Bowser at the end of this level is completely RNG. 50-50, not necessarily 50-50. We got a super nice Bowser pattern there. One fireball is absolutely fantastic.
Nice.
I die there 1/4 of the time just because Bowser's mean. So there we go. All right, one world done. Hypnotic Splonksy, how are you doing so far? Still with me?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And it looks like chat are enjoying this so far. I know that somebody pointed out, the infamous thing about some Super Mario speedruns, which was the bus rule, like the frame rule. I imagine that's something that doesn't pop up in here, does it? Or...
No, not at
That's
all.
correct,
So
it
unfortunately, we get random Bowsers every single time. We just sort of have to deal with it. Thankfully, this game is pretty low on randomness overall, though, which is good. And by the way, to chat and everyone else, I talk fast when I commentate, so Hypnotic Splonksy, if you ever have something to add in, please feel free to interrupt me. It is going to be the only way you can get a word in edgewise sometimes, so happy to always stop and chat. Here we go to our first, yay! Here we go to our first underwater level in the game. Thankfully, there's not actually too many of these, although they do provide a little bit of different movement mechanics. So normally with Mario games, it's all about timing your jumps. This one, what I'm trying to do is cut all of these corners as close as possible so I can get these sort of optimal racing lines through the water, which is a weird phrase to say, but does kind of work to describe this. One thing I'm not doing, if you are super intense on saving less than a second in this level, you can actually turn your 3DS sideways and spam both swim buttons at the same time to move a little bit faster. But it's an absolute nightmare to do, and there's no way I want to do that live. So if you want to try that out, feel free on your own time, but I will not be doing that today. Again, thankfully without too many water levels, it doesn't really add up to much over the course of the run. Our next level 2-2 is going to be another borrowed one. This is going to be our first one from Super Mario Bros. 3. Which was one of my favorite games as a kid. I actually only got it on the Game Boy Advance, so I'm very much into playing games that came out on console as mobile, apparently. It's just my thing. But this one we're gonna get, if I can get this, we're gonna get our first power-up. This is the Leaf power-up, and if we build up enough running speed, it will actually let us fly into the air for a short amount of time, which is pretty convenient. I might have missed this. No, I'm gonna make it, we're fine. What I want to do is get this P-switch. Yeah, I was close though. And I want to use it to get rid of this whole pyramid of blocks at the end. We will talk more about P-switches later. We actually got both the P-switch and the Leaf a little bit sooner than the game is going to teach it to us in its tutorial fashion. But you know what? We know what we're doing. We can do this. We can break the rules, go fast, all of those sorts of fun things. The first 4 worlds are actually all set up as sort of tutorial levels to teach the player different mechanics, different concepts, because it turns out until you can play a Mario level, you can't really make one. The game is very adamant that you can only make levels that you can actually clear, so it's important that you understand how to control Mario and how to play this game before you really get into any of the craziness that can come in. Here's another one of our throwback levels, this one coming from the original Mario Brothers game as well, although if you did play Mario 35 while it was out, it was a limited time release on Switch. You will also be incredibly familiar with this level. This was one of the most popular levels in that game because it gave you 3 different options at the end. Now, in the original Mario Brothers and in that game, it let you warp to different levels. This game, unfortunately for us, has 0 warps, 0 skips that skip levels. We actually do have to play all 88 levels in this mode. It's called any % because there's something else we don't have to do, but I'll talk about that a bit later. For now, just know we do have to do all 88 levels, so you've got plenty of Mario coming your way. This next level is where we were... Yeah,
There's a comment that says, don't forget to breathe. You're doing a great job.
I am breathing on occasion. I'm doing all right, but thank you. So speaking of breathing, though, I will let Ploxy take some of this level because this one gets a little bit scary. Ploxy, would you mind explaining P-switches and how we're doing a skip in this level?
Yes, P-switches, when activated by jumping on them, they turn coin blocks into coins, as you see in that little section there. Charbunny will be taking a P-switch through this dangerous-looking level, and she will be using the P-switch at a later time to clear out this huge staircase, because climbing the staircase would lose time, as you see right here, right there.
There we go. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
epic.
definitely intended for you to activate the P-switch at the beginning of the level so that you can just sort of run along those platforms that the game would have created for you. But as speedrunners, we can actually, oh, I want to jump on this instead of picking it up. We actually want to skip that ending pyramid as much as possible. I still climbed up most of it. That's a safety strat for marathon type runs. But I still skipped having to wait for the pipe at the top to spawn a P-switch, which actually is a bit of a delay that we don't want to have to deal with. There's very little RNG in this game. Bowser is one of the sources of RNG. Usually doesn't create too much of a problem for us. Pipe RNG is another one. When a pipe loads into the screen at the same time as Mario, when an item spawns from it is a little bit random, which is just, you know, a thing that we have to deal with. And then Magic Koopas can be random, but in this mode, they're actually not going to be too big of a problem. So we'll see those all the way down in World 18. Keep in mind, 18 worlds, we're on World 2, so we have a long way to go. But with that, we did finish World 2, so we're going to be jumping into World 3. World 3 is going to start off with another throwback level. This time it's going to be 1-3 from the original Mario Brothers game. See what they did? It's 3-1 here. It was 1-3 there. So creative. And this is the famous like tree level. In this game, though, conveniently, the trees are semi-solid platforms. And what that means, oh, I missed the jump there. What that means is that they actually will let Mario travel through them. So in the original game, and again, if you played Mario 35, you'll know that if you run into the side of the trees, they will stop your momentum and you'll likely fall to your death. In this game, however, we can cut through the corners of trees, which makes this level a little bit safer in this incarnation than it was in its original one. In 3-2, we get to see another fun thing about Mario Maker, the aesthetics. So one of the cool things you can do when you're creating Mario levels in a Mario Maker game is you can actually create a lot of different objects in the background and really spruce up the design of the level. And I think it's really creative and awesome when people can take that aesthetic approach and still create a playable level out of it. So this level pretends that it's a little city. You can see these buildings in the beginning section that we're going through. Here's a cool tower that we won't climb because we're going too fast. This is a bridge. We have this little waterfall even. We get a waterfall feature in this game. So this level just always feels really cozy and I really like this one. Unfortunately with speedrunning, we are trying to go fast. That is our primary objective, so we're not going to stop and smell the roses and really get a chance to explore. But again, this is an awesome game, so if you have it, feel free to explore it. That level's, I think, really, really cute. Our next level here is going to also be something that I want to talk about the background for. This game actually has 6 backgrounds that you can choose for the level, and they do have some influence on the level design. In this case, we're using the underground theme. Now, in the original game that this appeared in, which was the original Super Mario Brothers, and this was, I think, 3-1 in that game, it was sort of in a dark world where the background was dark, it looked like nighttime, the trees were white instead of green, and in this game we don't actually have that choice of theme, and so instead the developers chose to use an underground theme to sort of replicate that iconic black background for this level, while still again working within the limits of this game. I believe we have Overworld, so like cheerful green, we have Subworld, which is the one you just saw, we have Underwater, which you saw earlier as well, we have Airship, which we'll catch up to a bit later, that one's kind of fun, we also have Ghost House, all sorts of spooky, woohoo, and then we have Castle, which is the one we're in right now. Castle is probably the most different in that the bottom of the screen is actually lava instead of a death pit. This really doesn't come into play too much, but occasionally you can die a little bit early. I'm going to do something I never do in my normal speedruns and get this weird mushroom, which is going to give us Weird Mario. I apologize for any nightmares this might cause. Weird Mario creeps me the heck out, which is why I actually never get him in my own friends. But just for all of you today, in case you missed this, this abomination, you now get to see Weird Mario. Weird Mario has a higher jump than regular Mario and has a little bit of a flutter with his feet at the top of his animation. Kind of similar to Luigi, who unfortunately isn't in this game. For some reason they put this dude in the game instead of just putting Luigi in instead, and I'm still salty about that. But this is what we get to deal with. This is actually also our first auto-scroller, meaning that the screen moves on its own. We cannot go faster than the screen is going to let us go. Which means that the main thing we're trying to optimize here is just getting to the screen transitions, or the point where we can make progress to the next section of the level as quickly as possible. In this case, finishing off with that axe. So there you go. Weird Mario is now done. I promise we will never see him again, so you can put that away, don't have to worry about it. Hypnotic Plus, are you okay after seeing that very scarring image?
I think I'll live. I think I'll live. But shout outs to the ones that are built like Weird Mario. I will confess, he's posture-wise, he's quite like me.
That's fair. He's definitely been sitting in front of a computer for too long. I get that way too.
Way too long. I think we've all had a Weird Mario feeling moment. We've all felt a little bit like that.
Absolutely. So our next world, World 4, is actually going to be our first sort of themed world where every single level in this world is going to be trying to teach us how to fly. Now, we're going to ignore that in the first level, but what I want to do first is try to spot the difference. This is a classic Mario level. There's a few subtle differences. There's the first one. It might have been hard to see. We're going to do another jump. There's the second one. And it's that instead of just leaving this level as it normally is, Nintendo decided to stack about 10 enemies on top of each other instead of leaving them alone. And the reason is because Nintendo wanted you in this level to go get that leaf power-up that we used all the way back in 2-2 and use that to fly over the enemies. So it built the enemies taller to encourage you to fly over them. But again, we're speedrunners, we know what we're doing, so we can skip that power-up. But that level was intended to teach us about the first flying power-up, the leaf. This one is going to teach us about the second flying power-up, and here's where I have pipe RNG. That was pretty good, where when the item comes out of that pipe is just a little bit random. Here, though, we get the traditional flying item from Super Mario World. It might have been the first item that came to mind when you think of a flying Mario, and this is the cape. The cape is pretty straightforward in this game. We don't have to go too much into cape tech. There is a lot more that you can do with capes in Kaizo levels, but for us, it's mostly just getting to the end of the level. And in levels where there are more tutorials like this one, you can see that Nintendo really wants us to feel proud of figuring things out. So they give us a ton of coins, they give us celebratory fireworks, cheering every time we finish things, so that we know that we're doing the right thing. We're gonna ignore the coins a little bit here because we can actually make this jump a little bit faster than Nintendo wanted us to, and use that to get right to the top of this goal. In Mario World themes, the goal actually is on a cycle once you get to a certain point in the level, so depending on your route, you kind of always want to hit it so that you're right at the goal when you can, as opposed to having to wait for it to descend or ascend to the height that you're at. So it's tiny optimizations there. That level is designed so that if you do take the top route and finish it perfectly, you will always meet the goal at that one-up spot. Our next level 4-3 is a little bit tricky. It's got a ton of things called propellers in it, which is our final piece of flying item tech. Longsy, would you mind talking a bit about propellers and how they work in this game?
Propellers. When you obtained a propeller suit, when you either press the L or the R button, it gives Mario a bunch of height, as you just saw there when Charbunny grabbed the key and then went into the door. When that happens, though, and you want to get to a next, like a higher part of the level, there's this also little gliding thing that Mario does, and that's very slow. And so we try to mitigate that as much as possible by jamming Mario all the way back down after using the propeller suit, either with L or R, so we could save time by making Mario run again. And also there's a little strategy we use there by damage boosting through the Goombas and trying to carry on with the propeller suit. You'll see right there, that's a little optimization right there, so we can get Mario back to running speed as fast as possible. And yeah, propeller suit,
Propeller suit is a heck of an item, but because it does slow you down so much, it's a bit of a frustrating one to use, so it's one of my least favorite power-ups in this game. But that level actually went pretty smoothly, so pretty glad with how that worked out. Thanks, Plonksy. You're awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
4-4. 4-4 is where we get to our final piece of flying tech, but this actually isn't going to be an item. It turns out that even though the physics are the same between different themes, meaning that Mario's run speed, jump height, things like that are the same, his abilities actually do vary between versions. And what we're going to see that's exclusive to this new Super Mario Bros. U theme is twirling. Twirling is when you press the spin jump button, which is L or R, in midair, and there it is. You can see Mario does a graceful little pirouette. It halts his downward momentum and can let you extend your jumps out a little bit further. That's what this level is trying to teach us. You can see it's a tutorial because we have coins everywhere telling us where to jump. So the differences between the different mechanics are that the new Super Mario Bros. U theme has the most movement-based mechanics, where we have twirling in midair, we have ground pounding, we have wall jumps, and you can throw items in all different directions, or sorry, you can throw items left and right. Super Mario World has the most item mechanics where you can throw items in kind of any direction, but you can't do any of the other like wall jumping stuff. Mario 3, you can throw items left and right, but can't do anything else, and Mario, the original, just kind of is there. He's adorable though, so you know he's got that going for him. Alright, that's our first 4 worlds, so the tutorial is kind of out of the way, so Hypnotics, do you feel like you've caught up? You're now a Mario Maker expert?
Yeah, of course. I feel like I can take on the world. I feel like I can almost speedrun the game, or maybe there's more that I need to know going into these next worlds. Is there? Did things get shook up a little bit?
You know, there might be a few more things in this game. I'll be honest with you.
Just a few.
But it is amazing. It's amazing how that feeling of knowledge lets you feel like you're ready to take on the world, right? You can really go any place once you have all the knowledge.
All of that confetti that I saw in those levels just fills you with joy, doesn't it?
Right, right? It's so fun. So this next world is going to actually teach us all about springs. So you can see springs are now sideways. Ooh, tricky. And what this does is it's going to launch these Koopas at much higher velocities than they should naturally be going, which is probably really fun for the Koopas. I see this as like a little carnival ride for them, but for us as speedrunners, it's pretty scary because we're trying to do these jumps around these springs in a way that is not really intended. We're supposed to take vines up that part of the level and just take it nice and slow and safe. But instead we just kind of jump at it, and if we miss by a little bit and hit those springs, the spring will yeet us into the Koopas going equally as fast from the other side. And you don't have to know a physics problem to know that that's deadly. So not great, but thankfully we got through that one. The next one is going to...
You can just do a midair shell jump too, you know?
Yeah, or you can just do a midair shell jump. That's also cool. There's a number of levels in this game where if you're not familiar with Kaizotech is a term for mechanics in Mario that Nintendo didn't really mean for players to be able to do, but that do work within the boundaries of the game. This is another level where there's an optional Kaizo trick that you could use to do this section a little bit faster, but that I tend to skip because it's a little bit dangerous. A lot of times the Kaizotech in this game is faster, but it's also very deadly if you make a mistake. So for a no reset run, it's not usually the best way to go, at least for me. This next level, I will try at least a few of the Kaizotechs though, because it is a bit safer. So the one that I'm going to be trying in this next level is called a spring jump. And it's where I drop a spring in midair and then jump off of the spring in midair. It requires a little bit of timing to get that to work, but I've got 3 chances at it, so we can see how many of these I can get. This level is like the most Kaizo-y level out of all of the ones in this game. It's got so many different items and paths that you can take. It's very flexible based on your preferences. Oh, missed the first jump, that's okay. So it's a very fun one to sort of route. Plunks, you actually have some different routes that you use. Do you want to talk about some of the alternate routes for this while I do the spring jump route?
Brother,
Got one. Sorry, I got
right here in this
excited.
pipe section, I take the bomb that she threw to break those blocks, and I do a midair bomb jump, which I throw the bomb into the air, and then I do another spin jump, and then I drop the bomb, jumping off the bomb to grab that P-switch up there that she just grabbed. And I can use that to be faster at the level. I do that in my RTA strats. There's also another strat I use for the individual levels where I take the P-switch and I kick it off that wall, and I jump at it, so it's like almost frame perfect. And then at this end part, I take one of those shells that she jumped on and I do a shell jump there.
Yeah, then the diplomacy strat is a little bit faster on this, but if you miss that shell jump, a lot of times that shell comes back and hits you when you're small Mario in that case. That's not a good recipe for success. So I take the spring jump route, which is a little bit more consistent and safe, especially again for a no reset run like this. But I got 2 out of 3 spring jumps, so I'm feeling good for today. I wanted to make sure I at least got one. Our next level is where we learn about different auto-scroll speeds. So this game actually has 3 different speeds for auto-scrolling. If you look carefully, you can see I am barely making progress even though I'm running at top Mario speed, because that is the fast auto-scrolling theme. Or sorry, fast auto-scrolling speed. Here is where we go back into slow mode. Sad, gotta wait for the game. But it's trying to show you how you can sort of switch things up with these different auto-scrolling speeds. The important thing we're gonna do though at the end of the level is we're gonna get a star and we're gonna try to kill all 3 Bowsers on the bridge. Now, in a lot of Mario games, if you've watched Mario speedruns before, you know that a lot of times it's faster if you can kill Bowser rather than using the axe to drop him in lava. If you use the axe to drop Bowser in lava, he throws a bit of a hissy fit. He just kind of gets grumpy, he stays on screen for a while, takes up attention, and is not very fast. So if we can kill Bowser, then we actually save a little bit of time because we skip that ending animation. So I've got my star now, here come the Bowsers. I'm gonna try to just barely jump into all 3 of them to make sure that they all die from me and not from this end of level sequence, which saves us a bit of time. Now this brings up an important thing that you might have noticed. Unlike most Mario games, our power-ups do not carry over from level to level. So the reason that we don't actually worry much about killing Bowser is because we can't just keep a fire flower for the whole game. We have to start every level as small Mario and only use what's in the level in order to make progress. So that's a major difference, but it does make this level or this game incredibly easy to practice because everything is truly compartmentalized into each individual level. So in addition to that, like I said, you can take this game anywhere, practice it wherever. It's really, really fun. All right, another world done, so another check-in. Pelongsi Hypnotics, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm holding up all right. It's interesting because I mean, well, the whole shtick about this show is the sort of the handhelds and the other stuff as well, but the handhelds. And I imagine that this is a like a godsend of a game. You can just practice wherever you want. And you'd mentioned just before we went live that there was a way of sort of replicating parts of the stage for practice.
Yeah, so what's fantastic about the practice mode of this game is not only does it have a level select, so I don't have to play through this every single time, I can just select the levels out of there, but because it is a Mario Maker game, it's built in that you can edit any level that you'd like to, meaning I can take any of these levels that I'm playing and edit them to put in practice doors or to, you know, just repeat certain sections of the level so I can really get consistent at certain tricks. It's one of the, I think, the easiest games to practice. It's so amazing.
That's awesome.
Here I'm gonna go for... It is fun. Here's my favorite strat. You just go up this Goomba ladder for this level. It's really risky because if you miss it, you end up below the stage. Yeah, it's really dumb. It's not a recommended strategy, but I think it looks cool, and that's important when it comes to speedrunning. I do have a safer strat.
Yeah.
I do have a safer strat that I've transitioned to for real runs, but for stuff like this, I like to try to show that one off. Yeah, I use your strat. It's a cool strat. This world, by the way, last world was all about springs and teaching us how to use springs. This world is all about, hey, did you know there's other things in the game that can make Mario bounce around? So our first level was springs, but in the original Mario Brothers theme, so we couldn't pick them up. Our next level was note blocks, which are also things that can bounce Mario into the air. And here we get donut blocks, which are my least favorite of the bouncy items in this game. And that is because they're very well replicated in terms of physics, but what this means is basically every few pixels, you get a different amount of momentum. So if you think about radii coming out from the circle, wherever Mario lands on that circle, he gets that type of momentum. If you've played Celeste, similar to how the bumpers work in that game. What this means is it's incredibly difficult to be consistent with certain jumps on this level because you have to be near pixel perfect to get the same momentum every time. I will not be doing some of the skips at the end of this level because it is so inconsistent to do, and it loses you a ton of time, as you can tell, if you have to be reset in this particular level. What that means is we've got time to chat, so here's a great time where chat. If you have questions, start to put them in. Hypnotics, if you have any questions you've been holding on to, this is a great time to ask them.
Brilliant. I don't have any questions of my own at the moment, but just whilst we're here, everybody, might as well let you know that what we've got up coming soon and a little bit further ahead in the future, we have got AGDQ 2022 coming up on January the 9th. So if you haven't seen any of the games list, what's going on with that, or the schedule has released recently, then visit gamesdonequick.com for more information and more detailed dates, as well as tuning in tomorrow because we've got hotfixes all the time. We've got PB Precipice at 1 p.m. Eastern, a show where runners come on and show us live PB attempts. So keep an eye out.
Those both sound amazing. With the game for tomorrow's show, it was Legend of Zelda, right? Was it Breath of the Wild this time?
Ooh, I'll do a little check. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay. That game is just so cool. If you haven't seen a speedrun for Breath of the Wild, you should definitely check that out. And then, of course, AGDQ, I'm super excited. I'm actually going to be a host for this, so I'm just going to plug the games I get a host for. Some of the things I'm super excited about is that there's going to be a Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons run, which actually is also on a portable console. That came out for, I think, Game Boy Color, along with Oracle of Ages. That's going to be on Sunday. Right after that is going to be Dead Space 2. And then on Monday, there's another couple games I'm super excited about. There's going to be a Super Mario Galaxy 4-way race with Luigi. And I'm really a big fan of Luigi. You just can't get him in this game, which is sad. And after that, it's going to be a Pumpkin Jack run, which is a retro style 3D platforming game, which anytime you see a 3D platforming game for a speedrun, you know it's going to have some ridiculous movement tech. So definitely excited for that AGDQ schedule. It's going to be so fun.
That sounds like great fun.
Right? Oh yes. All right, we're out of the slow level. So 6-3 is just kind of an unfortunate midpoint in the run. It's not even the midpoint, it's like a third point maybe. It's just a little slow. It's a long level, it's an auto-scroller, there's not much you can do with it. So just kind of keep bouncing, keep doing your thing. Unlike that though, 6-4 is one of my favorite levels in this game because it has one of the highest actions per minute, meaning that I'm constantly having to push buttons. And the reason for that is we're gonna be going through all of these 1-block high spaces, and every time I'm in one, oh, come on Mario, you can do this. Every time I'm in one, it's optimal to be banging Mario's head against the ceiling with the jump button, which is really rude, and I feel bad for Mario because there's no way he gets out of this without a concussion, but it's fast, so I'm sorry, dude. It's okay. We'll get you medical attention later. But it's just really fun because you're constantly having to push buttons to go fast, and that's really an exciting level for me. So I love this one. But funnily enough, the game does realize that head injuries are a problem, and the way they recognize this is that the next world, the entire next world, is all about shellmets, which are shell helmets, if that wasn't obvious from the word combination. So only after the head injury level does Nintendo realize, you know, maybe we should give someone some protective gear, and they made an entire world about shellmets. The first level in this is just going to be sort of the basics of it. We're going to get a shellmet, or we might not, and the reason I say that is because the first jump to get the shellmet without slowing down is actually really tricky. So we've got 2 routes through this level, one if you get the shellmet, one if you don't. We'll just see which one we get. This level also has some cool theming. It's all about chain chomps, which is a cool enemy in Mario games. We're going to see just a gajillion of them throughout the level, and you'll see pixel art of them later on. One of the best things about the shellmet though in this particular game is that it's actually a free power-up, and what I mean by that is that we can get this without having to slow down. So when we get a power-up like a mushroom or a fire flower or a propeller, this game will freeze for half a second while Mario collects that power-up. And similarly, if we take damage, the screen will freeze for half a second as we revert to small Mario. But the shellmet, as you can see, did not cause the game to freeze when I picked it up, making it one of my favorite items in the game because it means I can take it for safety in certain levels without having to lose nearly as much time as getting a mushroom. Nearly as much time being half a second. But still, we're speedrunning, so every half a second counts. The first level in this world taught us like, okay, here's a shellmet, here's the basic idea that it will protect your head. This level's like, hey, you probably need to see an example of literally all of the projectiles this can protect you from. So this enemy is composed of 2 sections, or sorry, this level is composed of 2 sections, each of which consist of a stack of enemies that just slowly and menacingly stands in front of you. Conveniently, with the shellmet, this level's pretty trivial. I can stay at about a 45-degree angle from that Magic Koopa, and I won't have to worry about anything at all. The second half of this level, kind of the same, but we get the coolest object, I guess, slash friend in the game. Oh, wait, no, I have to run for this? I did not realize I have to run. Here we go. There we go. This is Bob the 1-Up Mushroom. Can everyone please say hi to Bob? Thank you.
Hello, Bob.
Bob is amazing. Because of the way this particular auto-scroller works, Bob stays on screen longer than anything else in this game. And he just sort of chills with us as a companion. Now, one of the reasons I really like Bob is because, as you've noticed, there is very little story in this game. We have gotten 0 letters from Peach telling us that she's like still waiting for us or promising us cake. We have 0 toads telling us that she's in another castle. So Bob is really the only companion that I feel like really works to lift Mario's spirits during this long and arduous journey. So Bob is awesome.
Bob survived that gauntlet as well. He's one tough cookie. One tough cookie.
He is absolutely incredible. I love him. For this level, I'm going to be getting this shellmet actually for safety. This is also kind of a throwback level, but they put more Hammer Brothers in it because who doesn't love more Hammer Brothers? Now, the trick is Hammer Brothers are random, and so I'm getting this shellmet so I can ignore the randomness at the end of this level. The trick, though, is I'm going to be using it to damage boost, meaning Mario will be flickering in and out of existence on this final jump. As you can see, the staircase is also only half there for that final jump, so that combination is always pretty terrifying, but thankfully I've practiced it, so we're good to go. You can get through that final section level without a shellmet, but you either need good RNG or you need to be able to react within fractions of a second to the Hammer Brothers RNG that you get and still do really precise jumps to get through each of their hammers at the end of the level. So definitely recommended to get the shellmet for safety when you're doing the full game run, which is what we're doing today. This level is just kind of chill. The only thing I'm going to be trying for is a checkpoint skip, and I almost didn't mention it because it's really hard to get and it doesn't save much time, but like it's there. Basically, if you get a checkpoint in this game as Small Mario, you become Large Mario, which as we just talked about costs you half a second of time. So I'm going to be setting up the first jump here. That might have been late. Yeah, I was a little bit late. And if you set up 2 very precise jumps, you can actually skip that checkpoint. Because I have the shellmet, I don't really need this safety mushroom, so it just lost me half a second to have to go through there. You do want something though coming up on that final Bowser fight. You never want to be fighting Bowser solo if you can avoid it. If you can get a safety item so that Bowser RNG doesn't affect you, definitely a good choice. Whew, all right, we're on World 8, which would normally be the final world in a Mario game, but we're going all the way to 18, so Nux Policy still remembering to stay hydrated. I should drink some water while I say that.
Yeah,
yes, of course.
I have water.
Interesting. We
Awesome.
did get a question from somebody in the chat because, as we all know,
Yeah.
you speedrun this game and this category, but do you do any level making yourself?
I do not. So unfortunately with this game, the 3DS version, you cannot upload your own levels. And so when I found that out, I was very sad, and it sort of killed any motivation to make levels if I couldn't really share them with anyone or have anyone else play them. I did like half make a level once, but most of the levels that I have in my custom level screen are things that I've done for speedrunning or for sort of for fun runs. So you'll see my level select later on, and it will be completely filled with custom levels, but 2 of them are practice levels, and the rest of them are every level in the game except it's a ghost house. Because I did a dumb run for Halloween this year where I turned every single one of these levels into the ghost house theme and just tried to speedrun it. And most levels don't really make much of a difference, except for the fact that all of my visual cues got messed up, and I do depend on visual cues for timing certain jumps.
Oh, wow.
And then as well, the castle levels missing lava really destroyed certain strats, so that was an adventure to go through. But yeah, it was fun. It was a challenge that I don't think I'll do again, but it was definitely interesting to try.
Nice.
Speaking of challenges, one of the things that I haven't really talked about, and I promised that I would, is why this is the any percent category, even though we are doing all 88 levels in the game. Well, we have to do all 88 levels, there's no skipping that, but it's because there's optional medal challenges on each level. Those medal challenges are sort of above and beyond the normal difficulty, and they're similar to if you think of Mario Maker 2's clear conditions. They're things like get all the coins, or defeat a certain number of enemies, or reach the end in a certain amount of time. In this level, it happens to be go through this subworld, which this is the subworld even though it doesn't look like it. And the reason that this is a challenge medal here is because, as you can see, I'm in a boot. The boot item is awesome and super fun, but it's very bouncy. As you can see, I'm bouncing a lot of the time, and I'm trying to bounce on these very small enemies, and if I miss any of them, I will fall to my death. So this is actually a pretty tricky route through the level. It saves all of 1 second to go this route. Real quick,
Also
favorite hitbox in the game goes right through Mario's head. Mario's hitbox while in the boot is a little bit lower down. Sorry, Plonks, you were saying something. I got excited about my hitbox.
Hitbox. Yeah, cool hitbox.
It's fun. So this route is a bit more dangerous, and it saves, again, all of 1 second in real time. But hey, that's 1 second, and we're speedrunning, so I will go for this one every single time. It's just kind of fun. But the medal challenges, the reason that this is any percent is because we don't have to get the medal challenges. So real quick on this screen, you can see the medals will pop up at the top of the screen. This one was reach the goal via the sub area, get at least one one-up mushroom. We completed both of those challenges, which is the 100% completion of that level, but they're all optional in this game category. So we do call this any percent because the medal challenges do not need to be completed, although it's fine if they are. This level is Nintendo's apology for the last level, which I mentioned was really tricky. That's one of the levels people are likely to get stuck on in their casual playthrough. It's because they just made this bonus level with all of these coins. Now, this is an auto-scroller, which normally would be sort of hands-off for speedrunning, but because it's in this fast theme and it has like a gajillion screen transitions, it actually ends up being a pretty intensive level. So for every one of these small screens, there's something I'm doing to try to optimally reach the right side of the screen as soon as the door, pipe, or whatever other object is there spawns in. That was a really good P-switch room. That's a P-switch jump, by the way.
Nice.
So for example here, I'm going to stand on top of this particular cloud and watch for that set of bullet bill launchers to hit the side of the screen. And as soon as it does, that's when I'm running to the right because I trust the pipe is going to spawn in. For this room, I'm going to be looking for this row or this column of coins right here, this tall one, to hit the side of the screen. I'm going to stand underneath this other column of coins, and there it goes. So that's when I'm going to do running speed here. This last one is actually the scariest because to the right of that pipe is a void. And when you're learning the speedrun and you miss the timing, it's entirely likely you'll just jump right over that pipe, fall to your death, and it's really sad to die on the bonus level of all things. So I definitely take that one a little bit seriously. This next level is from another Mario game that I have not mentioned yet. So this is from a completely different game. Chat, feel free to guess. At the end of the level, I'll tell you which game it's from, but please guess if you know which level this, or which game this particular level is from. Again, it's not one of the ones that I've mentioned so far. This is where we're actually gonna get a star though, which is always really fun. I got a star a couple times earlier, but didn't really talk about it. Stars make you go just way, way faster than normal, which is great again for speedrunning. Even though it took me a little bit of time to get that star, you saw I had to jump up, get it, wait, it's worth it because it does save you time over the course of this level. I did not give you a lot of time to guess, but in case you didn't get your guesses in, this is actually from Lost Levels, which was sort of the sequel to the original Mario Brothers game. That is the
Lost Levels.
It is excellent game knowledge, Bloxy. It is the first level from Lost Levels. So if you guessed that right, congratulations, you're a Mario expert. Pat yourself on the back. If you didn't get it right, that's okay. Hey, you learned something today. That's still a way to go. This next level's scary. This level is completely covered in spikes. But one thing that's nice, yeah, it's a level. But one of the things that's important to keep in mind if you've been watching a lot of Mario Maker 2, which is the sequel to this game, is that Mario Maker 1's spike hitboxes are a lot nicer than those in Mario Maker 2. So even though I'm cutting these pretty closely, I actually have a little bit more leeway than you might think if you've been watching a lot of Mario Maker 2. So there was a sequel to this game. Sorry, go ahead.
Nice job, sorry.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, there is a sequel to this game. Mario Maker 2 came out for the Nintendo Switch. And it did change up a couple things, a little bit with the physics. It made a lot of the Kaiser tricks harder to do, and it made those spike hitboxes a little bit meaner. So definitely a little bit of a difference between the different versions. I am running on mostly the physics engine from Mario Maker 1. This level is another auto-scroller, but I like to do the 100% challenge, which is to get, I believe, 2 1-ups, maybe it's 6? I think it's 6 1-ups. It's 3 for each section. There's 2 sections to this level, 1 Goomba, 1 Wiggler. And basically, as long as you don't hit the ground between bouncing on enemies, you build up this little combo. So you can see 200, 400, 800, 1000, 2000, 4000, there's my 1-ups. And there's no need to do that in this. This is just a 100% route. But the trick is, if I don't have a route for auto-scrollers, I tend to get bored. And when I get bored, I try dumb things. And when I try dumb things, I end up dead. So it's very important to me to have a route for even the auto-scrollers just to make sure I don't go a little bit too crazy and try stuff that maybe I shouldn't be trying during a real run. But that's our first 8 worlds down, which again would normally be a great length for a Mario game, but we have 18 of them in store. So nice, Plonksy, still cozy, still comfortable for all the things that we've got coming up?
Yes.
Yep, I certainly am, and also it seems like a lot of the chat were on the ball. There were a lot of guesses for lost levels, so a lot of pats on the back. It seems to be distributed to the chat. Well done, everyone.
Yay! Congrats, chat. You're all amazing. This level's also from another game. I'll just spoil this one. This is the first airship from Mario Brothers 3. What I'm doing here is I'm hugging this bullet bill launcher until I get over to this section so that I can time that bullet bill so I can get up to here. You don't have to hug the bullet bill launcher to do that trick, but it just kind of makes it easier. Now in the original game, you probably would have seen speedrunners get these items down here so that they could get a fire flower for the upcoming Koopaling fight. But in this game, again, power-ups don't carry over, so we don't really care. And 2, there's not actually a Koopaling waiting for us. Koopalings were not introduced until the sequel in Mario Maker 2, and instead we get a Bowser Jr. And it's a pretty sad Bowser Jr. because we don't even have to fight him. He's just kind of there in front of the pipe, but if we have a mushroom, we can just run through him. We don't even have to stop and say hi. It's kind of rude. So a little bit disappointing that we don't get to actually have that little boss fight in the game, but it is a medal challenge, so if you are trying to 100% the game, you do need to fight that particular enemy, and in fact, I think the 100% challenge is to beat him using, only the tail, which is actually pretty tricky. So it's a fun medal challenge, but for speedrun, we can just sort of skip that. Nope, on out of it. We're all good to go. This next level reminds me a lot of Luigi's Mansion, which is one of my other favorite franchises. The real trick here is at the beginning we want to be jumping off of these conveyor belts because they're going the wrong way, but after that we get some cool boo art. We get Thwomps attacking us out of a painting, which is just really darn cool in my opinion. And then we're pretty much done. We get this ominous row of clocks. Like, no one needs this many clocks in their house. If you need this many clocks, maybe consult a professional, but that's it. It's a very short level. I'm kind of sad because again, it reminds me of Luigi's Mansion, which is one of my favorite franchises, but we're done. That was it. That was the spooky level. Hope no one got seriously scared from that because it was very short. The next level is going to be a tutorial level, funnily enough. Even though we're all the way in World 9, one thing the game hasn't taught us yet is how to wall jump. So I mentioned there's some differences in movement mechanics between the different versions. And in New Super Mario Bros. U theme, this 3D looking one, you can actually wall jump, which is a very traditional Mario mechanic, but that didn't really come into 2D Mario games until much later in Mario's sort of lifespan. I guess that makes it sound like he's dying soon. He's not. He's awesome. He's doing wonderfully. Mario's fine. Everything's okay. But this level you can tell it's a tutorial because we've got coins all over the place telling us where to jump, and because as speedrunners, we are roundly ignoring most of those coins to take more optimal lines. So here, instead of doing a wall jump as intended, I can twirl around that pipe. Here again, I can skip another set of wall jumps by twirling, so we've got this one kind of figured out. This one's kind of a fun one to run. This is actually one of the ones where your movement heavily influences how much time you save, at least in a small way. So it's a really competitive IL to try to get into, but a very, very fun one.
It's interesting. Somebody had asked earlier, because I know, again, another sort of trope of Super Mario, like especially classic Super Mario speedruns, the flagpole at the end, is there a particular approach that you're aiming for every time you hit one? I assume you're trying to go lower?
Yeah, so we don't have any fancy flagpole glitches or anything like that, but there is something to be said for not going to the very top. Getting a 1-up will lose you time. The key is as long as Mario hits the base of the flagpole before the flag does, you haven't lost time because you would still have been stuck in that animation. But if Mario hits the ground second, which you'll see in some levels where I just have to get the top of the flagpole, then I've lost a little bit of time, and you can tell how much time I've lost based on how long it takes Mario to hit the ground after the flag. For us, that's about a 2/3 distance up the flag, so it's not like we have to be right at the base of the flag or super optimal on that one. We can take it pretty chill, but you do not want to get the 1-up because that will be a loss of time. Not much, but still a little bit of a loss of time.
Okay.
Great question though. This level also has a flagpole, but really the thing about this level is I'm getting the red coins. This is, again, not because I need them, but because I just want to not die. And this way I'm not going to start freestyling. One of the cool things about this level with its IL, though, is, and I'm not doing the IL route. Technically, if I was doing the IL route, I would either need to go through the door at the end after getting all the coins, or I would need to stay Large Mario, which sounds like a weird combination of things, but the reason is not because I need Large Mario to do like a dramatic damage boost or anything like that. It's because Large Mario's hitbox is very slightly larger than Small Mario's hitbox, not just vertically, but actually horizontally as well. And this was something I only learned because in this particular level with this auto-scroller, if you are Small Mario, you will never make it to the flagpole in time to get the optimal timer for the IL. This is like 2 frames, maybe just 1 frame, by the way, which is why I do not care about it for my any percent run. But if you are Large Mario, you will actually land just a few frames earlier and you will actually get the IL time. Fun fact. This was really frustrating to me when I was running this IL because I didn't realize Large Mario was the difference. And so I kept doing the IL over and over again going, how in the world am I possibly losing time on this auto-scroller? But the other option is to get all these red coins and go through a door at the end of the level. So we can do that. We will not be doing that because going through a door costs, I think, 1.5 seconds of real time. Pipes cost 3 seconds of real time, which brings up another great point that there are some IL routes that, while faster in-game time, so using the in-game timer in the top right, are actually slower in real time. And that's because going through doors and going through pipes costs you real time. Like, the world around Mario does not freeze IRL when he goes through a pipe. However, in-game it does. And so there are some levels where you can save 5 seconds by going through the subworld in-game time, but that's actually going to cost you 1 second in real time because you went into the subworld through a pipe and out of the subworld through a pipe, and that's 6 total seconds. I know, math and speedrunning, what is this? But I promise it's not too bad. So it's kind of a cool thing that we actually do have certain levels that the IL route is entirely different than our any percent route, specifically because of that in-game cost, or that out-of-game cost, to go through those transitions. This level's not one of those. It's very straightforward. The key thing here, again, is on conveyor belts that are moving against Mario, I do not want to be spending time on them. If I can get what's called a first frame jump, which is where you jump as soon as Mario lands on the ground, you will actually not be affected by conveyor belts. So that's your goal whenever you see a conveyor belt going backwards. Now, whenever you see one going forwards, you want to stay on it for as long as possible because it's going to give you that speed boost. We'll see a whole level later on that's entirely devoted to that. I want to say it's like 17.6 or something. So we've got a ways to go before we get there. First, though, we get to play 9-7. This one is another throwback level. This is, I believe, from Mario 3. I guess it has to be because that's the theme I'm in. This one is all about that one giant jump there. Now, that one giant jump doesn't look too bad, and here's a bunch of enemies popping up behind us. It's not really a big deal. But that one giant jump there skips a whole backtracking section, because while it looked like I could have recovered up to the pipe, there's actually a bunch of hidden blocks that will trap you in between those pipes if you do not make that jump. So very important to nail that one jump. That one jump is almost the most important one in the whole run, so very glad that I got that. Our next level, 9-8, is where I'm going to talk about something called a platform scroller. So I don't think we've talked about this yet. But we talked about, regular levels where you just sort of run around as Mario, have fun. We've talked about auto-scrollers, where the game is going to dictate your top speed by not letting the level advance until a certain point in time. But this is our first chance where we really get to see what I like to call a platform scroller. Now, what a platform scroller is it's similar to an auto-scroller in that I have to, or I'm limited by the level's design as to how fast I can go. In this case, I can't just power ahead. I have to stay on these 2 platforms in order to make progress in the level. I can't make progress without them. Now, the biggest difference between an auto-scroller and a platform scroller is that I can usually, or as a speedrunner, you can usually take one death-defying jump at the very end of each section in order to make progress ahead of the platform. You only need the platform as long as it takes to get you to the next spot, so the sooner you can make that jump, the better. Here, we're going to count to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 fireballs, and use that as our cue to do a safe version of that final jump to make the end of the level. But you can take that a lot riskier if you want to save those extra few parts of a second. So platform scrollers are heavily this risk-reward mechanic in speedrunning, where you can save some time by jumping off of those platforms early and trying to skip to the end of the level. But if you die, you're going back pretty far, because like an auto-scroller, deaths are pretty costly and they take a while to reset your progress. But hey, we made it on that one. I will be trying some difficult and risky auto-scroller skips or platform scroller skips later on in 15.4, so stick around for that. But thankfully, we're done with that particular section. But World 10 is coming up, and I need to give everyone a bit of a warning about it. This first level in World 10 is going to start off pretty normal, but we're going to go through a pipe, and everything's going to just... It's unnerving how weird this is. So just be ready, make sure you're sitting down, like, just be careful. It's very, very really mind-blowing, honestly. So Ray went through the pipe, everything's fine,
please.
but oh my god, we're going left. We're in a Mario game, we're going left. I don't even know what to do about this. What the heck is going on? Why is Mario going this direction? He's never supposed to go this direction. It's absolutely insane. This doesn't make any sort of sense. Oh my goodness, I don't even know what we're doing anymore. I've never been prepared for this. Okay, it's fine, it's fine. The left section is done, we're back to going right. Deep breaths, everyone.
We made it. I can't believe we made it.
Okay, plus, you two still okay? You made it through the other side of that craziness?
Yeah.
Please tell me you're still here.
Hey, I have the world record in this IL, okay? I know the stress it can cause.
Wow.
The flex.
Just throw that out, why don't you?
The flex.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this actually is a level from Mario Brothers 3, so you might have been better prepared for that than I was when I played through this one. But this is actually one of my favorite levels in this game. I know I've said that for a couple, but there just are a lot of cool levels. I really do like the going left part. Now what's interesting is the point of that level and why it was included in this game was not actually because of the going left section, it was to teach us about using the boot, which we already saw earlier, so again, we're ahead of the game. We chose not to use it in that last level by instead very carefully jumping around the spinies and munchers, but we are going to pick one up here. This level does require us to learn the boot in order to progress. Now a key thing with this large boot is that I can ground pound as the original Super Mario Brother. Like, I can just ground pound here and it's fine. And what that will do, actually, if I'm wearing large boot, is it will shoot out two little ghosts to either side of me that will actually kill enemies through walls. So that's why that boot is required in that section of the level. You do need to kill those enemies through the walls. Here comes scary jump. We made the scary jump. There's not a lot of clearance on that particular platform. But really, we're sort of done with the boot for a little bit. It will come back in later. We'll use it for a few more levels, but this level is the one that's designed to really teach you about the boot and sort of give you the options to explore on how you can use it in your own creative levels. Again, the point of these levels, in addition to being fun, like Nintendo did try to make them fun, the point of them is to teach the player how to make new Mario levels. So this level, if you take the time to explore it, has a lot of other cool things that you can do with the boot that you can learn how to use in your own levels. Again, though, we're speedrunning, we're gonna go fast, we already know this, so we can just move on. And continuing the theme of seeing something in one level and using it in the next, I am going to briefly show you my least favorite character in the game. I'm just gonna pop him out of the block and then I'm gonna move on. We're not gonna use him in this level, we're gonna see him in the next. So this level is actually from Super Mario World, I believe. It comes pretty late in the game, but there we go. There's Yoshi. And I know a lot of people love Yoshi. I know he's very lovable and all, but he is slow. I know he took care of Baby Mario. I know that he's done a lot of things to help Mario out over the years, but he's just not fast, and we're speedrunning, and it's really frustrating. So we don't get him in this level because he's slow, and we can make it through this level without his help. But we are going to use him in the next level, and that's because the next level is an auto-scroller, so it's free to get Yoshi. What I mean by that is that similar to a Shelmet, or similar to a boot, which getting Yoshi, like jumping onto Yoshi, does not pause the game, so you don't lose time because the game freezes. However, both mounting and dismounting Yoshi will halt Mario's momentum, which, as you can imagine, for a game where you're trying to run around fast and speedrun, halting your momentum is the opposite of what you want to do, which is one of the reasons why Yoshi is a bit slower. Since we're in an auto-scroller, it doesn't really matter what momentum I have, so I'm free to pick him up and sort of use him as that extra damage hit just in case. Right now, this is essentially a safety Yoshi, just so that I don't get hit. Fun fact, you can throw Bowser Jr.'s hammers back at him, but it causes him to fall off the rails and then follow you around for the rest of the level, which is very dangerous and not recommended if you're speedrunning, so you do want to be nice to Bowser Jr. in this level. The other reason Yoshi is slow is because he has this flutter mechanic, so he can get some extra height on his jumps, which is like really nice and all, but the problem is while he's fluttering, oh, I'm gonna lose him. We're fine. While he's fluttering, he actually goes a bit slower, similar to how in the propeller suit, if you are spinning down doing that extra little twirl, oh, that's a bit scary. Yep, okay, well, I deserved that for talking bad about Yoshi, I guess. That was unfortunate. When he's fluttering, it's similar to when you're twirling down in the propeller. You actually go a little bit slower, and I'll get a chance to show it off again since I have to go through this again, sadly. That's a new death for me, but I think that the show never happened before as a different show, so I won't use that phrase. I'll just say that's a new one, and we'll move on from there. I'll show you the Yoshi flutter here in just a second. I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit by these hammers, but there we go. There is Yoshi's flutter. I will try to do it to the right once these hammers get out of the way. There we go. If you were watching carefully, you might have seen that the momentum does slow down a little bit while you're doing that flutter mechanic, which is one of the reasons Yoshi's pretty frustrating. You're constantly having to balance his jumps with trying to make it over the gaps, but trying to cut them close enough that you don't get into that flutter mechanic. Because again, that does lose you time. So not only is he slow, but he's frustratingly slow, where it just takes a bit more work to play optimally with him. This is how this level's supposed to go. Because I was trying to show off Yoshi's mechanics, I kind of did some things that I shouldn't do, which, as I told you before, if I do dumb things that I shouldn't be doing in an auto-scroller, I'm likely to die. So we proved the point that this is why I have routes for auto-scrollers. But anyway, we made it through that level. That is over halfway through this run, by the way. So 10-2 is the official halfway point of any percent. So yeah, congrats everyone on making it this far. And Nox Belongsi, how are you feeling? Do we need a break or anything?
We're doing well for the moment.
Speedrun.
We're doing well for the moment. It's interesting that we in the Bowser level we had Yoshi's Revenge instead of Bowser's Revenge.
Bowser can do it. Bowser's fireballs were what got me trapped, but the lack of Yoshi was what got me there in the first place.
It's definitely Yoshi.
He's just a little adventure sometimes. And we get to see more of him. Yay! And here's a new thing about Yoshi I didn't talk about yet. He has an activation window. So at the beginning of this level, if I were to hold right and run instead of pausing like I did there, I would have run directly into the spikes. Oh, this is bad. This is really bad. I'm just off my game now, apparently. We're going to take this section very slowly, because normally I would use Yoshi to damage boost and I would have some invincibility through this section, but I'll get to this point where I actually do have a mushroom and now I can start to speed up again. Basically, the reason that Yoshi is a little tricky at the beginning of this level is because when he's popping out of his egg with his animation, there's actually a bit of a delay before Mario can jump on top of him. You will go right through Yoshi if you time that incorrectly. Well, because the beginning of this level is just death if you go through Yoshi, you do have to hesitate at the beginning of the level just a little bit in order to avoid taking death there. We managed to make it through there without dying, surprisingly, which is kind of fun. This part is cool. All the moles pop out, say hi. But if we're going fast enough, a lot of times the pattern of going fast in a speedrun game, like Mario, is if we go fast enough, the enemies can't keep up with us, and so we can stay ahead of a lot of the dangers in the level. Yoshi is not playing nice today. He knows he's going to be dying multiple times in later levels. Which I think is fair. When I did the speedrun for a charity marathon, I actually had a bid war going on Save and Kill the Yoshi. That was pretty exciting. Kill ended up winning. So Save barely lost out. But continuing the Super Mario World theme, this is a level where we get to do a traditional Super Mario World speedrunning thing and just skip the whole level with a cape. It's awesome. Now, unlike in the original game, Nintendo they're very aware that this is a possibility. You can see they put nice coins up here to congratulate us for figuring out the secret route. Kind of like if you played Super Mario Odyssey, there's certain places where you feel like you've outsmarted the game, you've gotten to this unreachable location, and then you find a giant pile of coins, which is Nintendo's like, wink, wink, we knew you could do this. It's kind of what this level feels like. But it's very fast to get through once you have the cape and you can just sort of go on through that section. This next level is going to be our next auto-scroller. I'm going to get something that I call a safety mushroom. Technically, I got one of these all the way back in 3.4, but I was so distracted by Weird Mario I didn't even talk about it. Safety mushroom is when you get a mushroom that is not necessary, but hey, it keeps you a little bit safer. So I've talked about safety shell nuts before, but this will be the first time getting a safety mushroom and talking about it. So in this level, it's an auto-scroller. There's really no sections to it. There's not much to do. There's just going to be a flagpole at the end, but I am going to get this safety mushroom just in case I take an extra hit. Now, the reason that this is a decision to make in a speedrun is because it does cost you half a second. I've said, I think a couple times now, that when you get a mushroom or a similar power-up, it does cost you half a second as the game freezes to animate Mario powering up. So I lost half a second on this level just by getting this item. However, if I end up losing this item, it will cost me another half a second, but it will save me from a death, which is at this point going to be like 30 seconds to a minute for an auto-scroller like this. We're already 40 seconds into this level, so if I were to have died here, 40 seconds lost. That's why, for me, getting the mushroom is definitely a good trade-off. It costs some time, but it has a larger chance of saving me time if I happen to get hit. Now, I'm much better at this level than I was when I was first starting out. One of the tricky things with this level is we're going to be jumping on some... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Plonksy.
No, I'm just agreeing with you.
One of the things that gets tricky is we're going to be jumping on top of dry bones in this level. And their hitboxes were not very intuitive to me. I originally tried to jump on their heads and kept falling through them and taking damage. You actually kind of want to jump at the base of their neck or closer to the back of their shell. Now at this point, I'm pretty decent at these jumps, but we're in a marathon run, so hey, it makes sense to play it safe. And then as well at this point, the safety mushroom's kind of like holding a teddy bear. Like It doesn't necessarily do much for me, but it makes me feel better. And if I feel better, I'm gonna feel more relaxed and I'm gonna play more confidently. And the more relaxed and confidently you play, the less likely you are to make a mistake. So at this point, it's kind of a, if I get the safety mushroom, I won't need it, but if I don't get it, I will get hit. It's just that sort of trade-off that's going on. But, you know, hey, that works out. I'm okay with how that worked out. This level's really cool design-wise. It's actually got 3 different difficulties. You can see we chose the hardest difficulty. I would like to say it's because we're really cool and we want to show off, but you know, it's just the fastest. You can see another platform up there that would have been another option for us. Now, the reason the difficulties are different is because each of those different difficulties gives you a different platform to ride on for the duration of this level. We get the fast lava lift, which is very dangerous, very easy to fall off of, but it does move the fastest, as the name fast lava lift might imply. So it does take the shortest amount of time to get through the level, even though it actually takes the longest distance to get through the level. One of the reasons the distance for each platform changes is, for example, there's a gap right there between the diamond and the rail in front of it. And right here, you're gonna see us go all the way up to this section of the level. The fast lifts can actually make jumps between the rails that the slower lifts cannot. So that's one of the things that sort of changes up between each version of the level, like each difficulty, and that's one of the reasons why it's the longest path, but again, it just moves so fast that it's worth it. We've reached the end of World 11 though. This ending always throws me off because there's not really much of a castle theme there. That is one of the cases where I have to land higher on the flagpole to take the optimal route, so we lost a tiny bit of time on the flagpole, but it's made up for by the level as a whole. But whew, 11 worlds down. How are we feeling, team?
We're feeling good, and I hate to do this because you're such in the swing of things, but everybody, we love countdowns here, and we're going to have a little break just to make sure that we're taking good care of ourselves and hydrating and all of that good stuff. So we'll have a, I don't know whether you're in a place where you can pause yet?
Right now is great. Right before I get into this level, I will hold off on hitting start.
Brilliant. Okay, everybody. So we will have a pause in 3, 2, 1. And we will be back. So please do stick around. Make sure that you sort of get up, have a little stretch. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that we are staying in the game as well as on the game. You know what we're talking about. So do stick around, enjoy the music whilst you wait, and we will be back very, very soon. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I hope that you've enjoyed the first half of this incredible run. It has been very fast, and there's a lot to learn about this game. I feel like I've learned a whole curriculum through just this run alone. But before we head on back over to Charbunny, if you're watching on YouTube, firstly, hello, we're all waving. Feel free to join us over at twitch.tv/Games Done Quick to check out our live shows starting most nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And while you're there, Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscriptions and bits, so please consider subscribing to help support future broadcasts. You keep us on the road, and hey, this is Going Places. We're all about staying on the road. So, Charbunny, it is all yours.
Awesome. Should I count it back down to start us up again?
Go on.
All right, we're starting in 3, 2, 1, go!
Hey.
Oh, Mario did all you lets it go. That was cute. So this next world is going back to being themed, but this is one of the just most unusual themes I've ever seen in a Mario game. This entire world, all of World 12, is themed around the Koopa Clown Car. If there is any other Mario game that has that trait, has a whole Koopa Clown Car world, please let me know and I will make sure to never play it. Koopa Clown Cars are a bit of a nightmare to control. So they work a little bit differently than normal Mario physics. They're very drifty, they keep Mario's momentum, so if I push left, usually Mario tries to come to a complete stop and run really quickly. With Koopa Clown Cars, you will drift around a little bit, a little bit more circular motion. While you're in them, you can move omnidirectionally, but if you do not hold a direction, you will slowly fall to the bottom of the screen, so you do need to stay on top of things a little bit. And then as well, while we have regular Koopa Clown Cars, we also have what you see to the right of the screen, which is this Fire Koopa Clown Car. A Fire Koopa Clown Car can shoot out fireballs, as the name might imply. And it can actually shoot out 2 different types of fireballs. The one I did just there is a charged fireball. This is the normal fireball. So normal fireball looks like Mario's fireballs, but they go in a straight line instead of bouncing. If I hold down the fire button though, I can actually charge up a fireball that not only will be a little bit larger, but as you can see there, went through multiple enemies, which is pretty exciting. You can tell when the fire is charged because the clown car's eyes change colors. So you can see once it's charged, it'll get this little red angry eye animation, which is kind of cute. One of the reasons this level is pretty interesting though is this kind of reminds me of old style like space arcade shooting games. where you're flying around on a screen, it's auto-scrolling, and all you have to do is blast enemies out of your way. Now, the medal challenges for this level are super unique. It's the only medal challenge in the game that is score-based, where your goal is to get a high score. You get a high score by doing combos where you wait for enemies to be on screen and then blast them into oblivion. Now, for speedrunning's sake, it's much safer to just get rid of the enemies when they appear, so that's what I'll be doing for the most part. I will show you a bit of the craziness at the end of this level, though. Once you get a fire flower, though, you actually get triple the fun because you get to fire out 3 fireballs at once instead of just 1. This applies both to the charge shot and to the regular shot, which really is useful, especially for the end of this level. At the end of this level kind of just escalates in difficulty. So right now we're getting normal enemies. We're about to get large enemies. It's going to be pretty fun. But at the end of this level, we actually get one of our few Bowser fights in this game. This is a required Bowser fight. He has a key that we need to get through a door. And we get to fight him in this Koopa Clown Cart, which is just absolutely ridiculous and fun. The key thing, though, is I want to make sure I keep this fire flower because it's going to let me do triple damage to Bowser because I will be shooting, as you can see, 3 fireballs at once. What I'm going to do here for a quick second, though, is I'm actually going to stop shooting and show you what this level looks like if you play it safe or less safely. So I, again, am usually shooting things all the time to avoid exactly this mess. But if you want a high score, that's the sort of thing you have to do, is wait for all the enemies to show up on screen and then blast them in order to get a high combo. Again, dangerous, not recommended. I actually only show that off during marathon runs. During my own runs, that whole section just gets destroyed. And here we go, here's our Bowser fight. Ideally, he does not shoot fire at us, but of course he wants to. And the key is, again, it's really, oh, we lost it. I was trying so hard not to. We really don't want to lose the fire flower because that's, oh, now we're getting really scary. That actually cuts our damage in 3, so really, really bad. We got some good damage in. Oh, stop moving closer, dude. Oh, this... I haven't died on this level in just about forever. So unfortunately, we have to do this again. I don't know why my deaths today are coming on some of the longest levels in the game, which is very unfortunate, but you know what? Hey, that's okay. That's why you don't want to lose anything, because then that fight takes 3 times as long, which gives you more time for Bowser to close in on you, and more time for those boosts that you saw to close in on you as well. So while we're going through this level, again, Nox, do you have anything else you want to read out? Any other announcements for people that you'd like to make?
Well, I've just seen a theme in terms of the levels that want to sort of try and ruin your day. They've both been stages that have had Bowser in them. I'm seeing a theme here.
But don't worry, we get to see the Guy Fieri car though, so you know it's not that bad.
Shout outs to the Guy Fieri car.
When I was running this at Flame Fatales, chat decided that not only was this the Guy Fieri car, because you know flame decals and everything, but because this is the Guy Fieri car and we're in it for so long on this level, clearly this level must be Flavor Town. So the unofficial name for this level is Flavor Town. The official name for this level is just 12-2.
That's brilliant. I love it. That's so good.
I cannot think that was definitely in chat. So chat, feel free to come up with other level names if you've got other cool ideas for level. Unfortunately, the community for this game is decidedly unoriginal when it comes to trick and level names. We really don't have many besides like, oh, that's the skip, that's the faster skip, that's the strat with the spring.
That's the bad level.
That is a bad level. So we're always looking for some help with our naming schemes. If you've got any ideas, feel free to throw them out. I know that chat tends to be more creative than I am, so I'm always happy to listen to suggestions.
Nice bounce off the cheat sheet.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, we're back through this level. Once again, I'm just going to actually destroy things this time. This is my normal route through the level. You get to see the alternate that I would normally do. I try to clear everything out and I would just continuously fire. So you remember the first time through this section, there were just a gajillion enemies everywhere on the screen. They were completely covering it. This time through, you're barely going to see enemies at all because I'm just going to make sure that nothing can kill me. And that's all I want to do with this level. And when the fire starts hitting the side of the screen, that's when I know I'm about ready to hit the end of the level. So Bowser fight round 2. We'll see if he's nicer this time. Once again, it's much easier if he does not shoot fire because then I can get a lot closer to him, which lets me more easily hit all 3 fireballs. The goal is to hit all 3 fireballs at once. He is being so much nicer. Look at this very nice Bowser. Oh, I thought I got it. It's fine. He's almost done. It can hit all 3 fireballs at once if we can get close to him. We just have to stay further away if he does shoot fire in order to dodge some of those evil patterns. So that is what a nice Bowser looks like. Unfortunately, we got a very, very mean one. That was one of the worst Bowser patterns I've had in a while, and I could have handled it better. Like, let's not pretend that wasn't something I made a mistake on. But Bowser was being mean. It's because I'm wearing his hat. I love this hat. It's got the Bowser fight on it from the original level, so cool hat and all.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize
I like this one. So here's our next Koopa Clown Car level. We are still in Koopa Clown Car World. This entirety of World 12, all 4 levels, is Koopa Clown Car based. But the worst part of this particular level is not in fact the clown car, it's a different thing that comes up, which are air bloopers. And oh, I actually got the one-shot fireball. That's really good.
Nice.
Oh no, come on, don't knock me off the edge, Goomba. You gotta be nice to me. Sorry, this is like a Loomba, I think. Basically, air bloopers are bloopers that are in the air. They move the exact same as they would underwater, but because I cannot move the same as I do underwater, they're actually really terrifying. You see, they're just menacingly coming toward me in this particular section. I actually played this part of the level incredibly safe, stayed pretty far back, and lined up shots to make sure I take all of them out. I have had 30-second standoffs with the bloopers in that particular section before if you miss hitting them the first time, so definitely something you want to aim for. And there at the end of the level, I did jump out of the clown car. Traveling in the Koopa Clown Car is slower than normal movement, so you generally want to jump out of them as soon as you can to reach the end of the level, so a little bit extra optimization there. And speaking of optimization, this next level is the Master Course in Koopa Clown Car Movement. This is the drift course. The beginning, or the entire level, is around these sort of narrow corridors that you have to navigate with the clown car movement, which is already tricky enough, but the ending is where things get really spicy. So this beginning section, you'll see sort of the idea of it, but the ending section is where the walls turn into spikes. Now, we haven't seen this yet, but if I hit a spike in a Koopa Clown Car, I actually lose control of the car for a few seconds as it sort of bounces around and drifts downward. That's fine in a normal level where I can recover, but this level has lava at the bottom. So if I hit some of the spikes and cannot recover the car in time, which is just a time-based thing, I will definitely drift down into the lava and die. So I'm going to be very slow on some of these sections, jump out early, jump here to bait Bowser Jr. into throwing those shells higher. If you do not jump at that last section, you will run into the shells. So very minor thing that you wouldn't notice just watching, but you do have to do that jump. And thankfully we made it through without hitting any spikes. I do have my clown car controls on hand, even if I don't have my Bowser fights on lock yet. But that's okay, we'll have more Bowser fights coming up. So there we go, Koopa Clown Car World is also try saying Koopa Clown Car World 3 times fast, that's a fun sentence. Thankfully that is now behind us. We have World 13 coming up next, which is actually not better. This is kind of the most evil world in the game. And this is an unconfirmed theory, so I probably shouldn't be saying it, but I will. My theory for how World 13 is created by Nintendo is that they took a bunch of interns and then they locked them into a room and they told them they would not feed them until they made levels that would make children cry. That, again, unconfirmed, so grain of salt there, but I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that explains this set of levels. So first off, we have a propeller, which, as you know, is just slow. But the really scary part of this is the end of the level and why I will be keeping my safety mushroom. Basically, at the end of this level, there are a bunch of chain chomps. You can see them starting to show up here. But some of the chain chomps are actually being sneaky. They are hiding underneath the lava. So what happens is the chain chomps, you cannot see that they're there. They will pop up from underneath the lava like jump scares. Who the heck puts jump scare chain chomps in their Mario game? Nintendo, what were you thinking? So this level is terrifying, and if you are Small Mario through that final section and make a small mistake, there is a bloodthirsty jump scare chain chomp that will always kill you. Chain chomps are supposedly random, that one is not. I don't know why that one's so cruel, but it's awful. This next level, somehow they made something even worse. They actually put an escort mission in a Mario platforming game. And until last week, I would have said and done this whole thing about how awful that was. But instead, what we're gonna do instead is I'm gonna die 5 times. So that's one. Feel free to help me count. And that's because, like some other modern Mario games, this game has assist items. Now, if I die 5 times, the game goes, you need help. And it will give me an assist item, which in this level happens to be a star. The assist items actually change per level. Some levels will just give you a 1-up, which I think is hilarious. But this one's a star, which is gonna let us skip this entire escort mission. This actually, despite how long it takes to die 5 times in this game, saves, I think, about 10 seconds over the intended route. So shoutouts to Manaretti and Pango5 who have been messing around with assist items as part of their work to find a minimal A-press route for this game, which is just absolutely fantastic work. So this is brand new, by the way. I only found out that this worked, the community only found this about a week ago. I only saw the official route for it about 3 days ago, and I only did it for the first time in a real run yesterday, so brand new tech right now. The key is that we get this star and that will let us jump through these sections that otherwise we would have had to play our way through. But the trick is the star timer is barely, and I mean barely enough to make it to the end of the level. You saw it ran out immediately after I killed that final Bowser. So it is an incredibly tight timing. You have to get the star really optimally at the beginning and you cannot make a mistake during that running section or you will die to the Bowser. So I'm actually really excited I got that first try, because like I said, this is brand new tech. This is the bleeding edge of Mario Maker speedrunning right here, but we made it through. Whew. This next level is scary, less for adults, more for children, because it's all pirate themed. It's really adorable. It's one of those just like cute levels with lots of aesthetic theming. Oh, I actually want to go up here, please. Lots of aesthetic theming, not very fast to speedrun. I'm just going to take that save because there's just so much stuff in it. There's not like a clean line you can take through without slowing down. But you can see like they've got this cool sail rigging set up. You've got all these dry bones acting as pirates. There's cannons everywhere. It's like a really cute level, but pirates are scary for kids. So I can see how this level an intern thought would make kids upset. So I see why it's included in the Evil World 13.
That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
It's adorable. Yay, pirates. You have a pirate hat on your icon, right, Pulling?
That is true, yes. Mario Party 8, yes. Goomba, Arg. Give me your doubloons.
13 for this next one is actually more evil for the 100%. So as any percent, it's fine. Any percent of this game, not really a big concern. I've already actually failed the 100%, but I'll pretend I'm doing it anyway. The 100% medal challenges for this game. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back a step. If you're a fan of Mario, there's two things that Mario is known for in the Mushroom Kingdom, as evidenced by all of the RPG games. And that is having a really cool mustache and jumping really high. Those are the two Mario traits, right? Like pretty awesome. This level, if you would like to beat it 100%, you have to do it the way I'm doing, which is by not jumping ever. Which is incredibly frustrating. I'm already going to give up on that because I want to be playing fast. But this level, to get the 100% medals in both sections of the level, because there's two of them, you cannot jump whatsoever. Just take your finger off that button, you can't hit it. Which, gosh darn it, is that evil? It's a Mario game. I'm supposed to jump, but no, instead I have to do all this like waiting, careful planning, running once enemies are gone. Like, nope, I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. So this level, decidedly evil, but thankfully for any percent, we do not have to worry about its most evil attributes and we can sort of just play through it at speed. The main thing for this one is I do get a mushroom. It is required because there's a midway checkpoint that you cannot skip. So it's a free mushroom. It's unlike a safety mushroom. It doesn't actually lose me time in the grand scheme of things. And the goal of this level in speedrunning is to get to the transition as soon as possible and then to try not to lose that mushroom if you can. Because losing that mushroom will cost you half a second. And if you do decide to pick up a second safety mushroom, in that case it is a safety mushroom, you do lose another half of a second from that one. 13.5 is one of the levels where there actually are two routes, one for the IL, one for any percent, because the IL route saves only 5 seconds and it takes the subworld. So in real time, we don't do that. Instead, we get, hey, guess what? More propellers. Isn't that exciting? We get more of the best item in the game. This level's like actually not too bad. This is sort of the intern who didn't really know what the assignment was and just sort of did their best, and honestly it's awesome. There's the pipe we would have gone through if we were going through the IL. Instead we just get to spin a whole bunch of times. We're going to come up here, get a POW. POWs are items that will explode enemies if they're on screen, so we can use it to clear out the munchers that are sort of hiding in that little alcove, clearing out our path on the way forward. Here, we get a Wiggler again. Hi, Wiggler. Bye, Wiggler. And then we're going to do a triple jump to barely clear those Koopas so that we can get to, again, the bottom of the flagpole. We talked about it a bit earlier, but we want to land closer to the bottom of the flagpole than the top to save that little bit of extra time. The final level here is going to be the most Super Meat Boy I think a Mario game has ever gone. We've got Saws chasing us, a bunch of timings. It's just kind of a mess. It's also got some Star Wars in it. The section right at the start has a bunch of fire jets that are alternating, kind of like if you've watched Phantom Menace, like that hallway scene as they're going to that fight. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a cannonball to time that section and to try to skip through 2 of those cycles without having to wait. So I'm going to wait here, jump on this cannonball, and then wall jump, and that gets me through both of those fire jets in just enough time to make progress without getting stopped. Oh, interesting. Haven't hit that in a long time. Oh, I went to like add to my death counter. I have a death counter when I run this game, but I do not have a death counter today. We're at like 3, I think. We can do that again. But basically, the first section we can skip with the fire jets. The second section, though, we do actually have to wait for. You can take it as risky as you want, but you do need to get around to Saw. So the first section, like I said, kind of reminds me of Star Wars more than anything else, but as we get later in, the more and more this reminds me of Super Meat Boy. Just we have Saws everywhere, all a mess. And this first section, not too bad, but it's going to get pretty bad in this next part. Ploncy, do you want to talk about this next part?
This next part, where you have a mushroom, you want to damage boost through one of these saws that are on this track here, and then you want to jump over 2, like as you see right here. Very tricky, or 3 actually. There you go. And there you go, yeah.
And Bowser's continuing to be a pickle.
Yeah. Bowser has like a select chance of jumping, and that can ruin your day.
Yeah, I actually have to hesitate on the platform before. You can get straight through that section without slowing down, but if Bowser jumps, he will jump into you, and so doing a small hesitation there lets me read Bowser's movements and see what he's about to do. But yeah, very tight jumps, not a lot of room for error there, so glad I made it through that at least first try. All right, we're through World 13. We've had a lot going on so far, so I want to check back in. Nox, how are you feeling? Feel like you've learned some more things? Your brain full yet? How's things going?
Definitely. I feel like that theory about sort of bringing interns in and getting levels to make children cry, I think that's very apt. And I feel like there are several games like sort of around the 90s where they were just like, yeah, this is technically a child's game. Like Lion King springs to mind, where like that game's almost impossible to do. Yet it was aimed for children. It doesn't check out at all.
Knowledge.
Not so much. Yeah, especially older games. We're not very compassionate when it came to children playing them. Here, I'm going to stand right here just so the boo ring goes through me. That is entirely unnecessary. I could have just hung out over here, but I think it looks cool. Now, I have one joke for this entire run because I'm bad at jokes. And this isn't even a great joke, but I like it. So, Poloxy, do you want to know a fun fact about this level?
Why, yes, Charbunny. I would love to listen about that fun fact that you have. What is it?
It's a boring level. Get it? Because it's an auto-scroller, so it's like boring, but there's boo ring, so it's like boo ring.
Slow claps.
Fun fact, when I told that joke on my last marathon run, I actually died for it. So I specifically changed where I tell the joke to be later in the level so I don't die again. The actual tech in this level is I got a mushroom that does let me skip the very ending. You saw I ground pounded through some blocks. That's a tiny, tiny shortcut that we take. So I apologize to chat for that one. Again, I told you, our community is not necessarily the most creative. I'm definitely not the most creative when it comes to jokes and things, so please put better ones in chat so I can learn. Help me for the next time. Anyway, we're through that level. 14-2 is up next. This level's very fast-paced compared to the one before it. It's a normal... Sorry, Bloxy, what's up?
14-2. Okay, so in this level, it's very fast. There's a bunch of... I forgot what these things are called again, but... Buzzy beetles, yeah. And you just run. It's a very fun speedrun level. There's a little trick at the end where you have to climb a bunch of stairs, as you just saw. And then there's this big buzzy beetle that you can try and avoid if you're really fast. But we usually just wait for it because it's kind of hard.
Yeah, this is one of the levels that was the hardest for me to not die in when I was first learning the speedrun, because you've got things attacking you from above and below. So you're actually the jumps in the level are a lot less lenient than you might think, because if you go too high on them, you will also get murdered. So very dangerous one when you're starting out. This one, the beginning of it's not so dangerous, the ending part will be, but this one's another sort of tutorial-ish level trying to teach you about an item called the Crusher. So that's these things here. They try to squish Mario. We saw them back in 4-3. And the cool way that this level was designed is that it starts off underwater, which makes everything a little bit slower, a little bit easier for players to get used to. Unfortunately, we're speedrunning, so we're going to damage boost through these a couple times because we do not want to have to wait for them. But it's nice that for a beginning player getting used to like how crushers move, how they work, you can sort of just get used to it in this nice slow environment first, sort of get the hang of things, before we move on to the out-of-water section. Now, this is a normal pace section, but it feels blazingly fast after going through that underwater section. This is like if Mario was in an action movie, what you would expect to see. Everything's exploding behind you, you're constantly outrunning death, very dramatic, lots of sound effects, everything to that nature. We do get the checkpoint
by Michael Bay.
Directed by Michael Bay. We do get the checkpoint as a bit of a safety, because as you can see, those ending crushers are pretty tight. You can get through them without taking damage, but you don't really want to risk it on good pace. And if you don't get the checkpoint, you would have to do that entire underwater section again. So we do take that for safety. Does just make sense to the overall scheme of things. But that does bring us to 14-4, which has the cool distinction of being one of the longest levels in the run. And I say that with as much sarcasm as I can muster. This level is not fun. I really do love this game. I think it's got so much creativity. The way that it's designed around showcasing all these different mechanics gives it a ton of varieties. Like every level feels like it's different. That's why I'm talking so much. There's always something new to say. But in this level, the key thing is I'm gonna get this safety mushroom that's in a hidden block. It's technically a free safety mushroom because I'm gonna get a required checkpoint later. And the theme of this level is it's gonna show us all these different fireball patterns. But it does this for like 2 minutes. The other longest level in the game is 18-8, but that one's long because of transitions, and it has a ton of different varied action. This one really is just me slowly moving to the right for quite a bit more time. So if there have been any other questions from either you, Poloxy, or you, Hypnotics, or in chat, this is a great time to just have a conversation.
Oh, it's interesting that like there are so many auto scroller levels, and everybody sort of, as soon as they hear an auto scroller, they're like, oh, surely like this sort of level doesn't lend itself very well to a speedrun. But the fact that there are so many in this run and it's still so much fun, especially to watch, I imagine it's been a good time to learn for both of you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's, dare I say, a bit of a stigma when it comes to auto scrollers.
Especially for this game.
Yeah, there definitely is. There's a lot
game.
of levels like this where you're just kind of stuck for a bit. There's not a lot I can do to save time, and particularly this one and 6-3 are the two that stand out the most, because you can't really just chill on them, but you have to keep moving, you have to keep dodging things, but it's not interactive enough to be a challenge. So it falls into that stage of like, it's kind of like how doodling can help you pay more attention at school sometimes. Also, just one hand for this section. Doodling can help you pay more attention at school sometimes because it keeps part of your brain busy as you're doing things, right? That's kind of like what some of the auto-scrollers in this game are, where there's something to do that's interesting enough to keep you sort of paying attention to Mario and not doing anything silly. This level just doesn't happen to be one of them, but thankfully there are interesting auto-scrollers in this game. Like any of the fast ones, there's definitely tech to keep up with the screen transitions. And for example, like 3-4, which was the first auto-scroller we saw way back when, that one does have a lot to do with dodging and getting safety mushrooms not. So there are some very interesting ones, I think, for a speedrunning game.
Nice.
Yeah. It is unfortunately a lot more auto-scrollers than I think a normal Mario game. I know Mario 3 is another one that's famous for having just a lot of auto-scrollers. I've never actually counted how many are in that game. So if anyone knows how many auto-scrollers or what the auto-scroller to level ratio is for Mario 3, I'd be curious if this is the one that takes the crown in the Mario franchise, or if there's another one that outdoes it. As we get into the later worlds, it's usually about one per world. I think the only one coming up that doesn't have an auto-scroller is World 16. Because I think all of those levels are actually pretty fast, which makes World 16 go by just really fast and kind of scarily quick. But World 15 is sort of 2 to make up for it, so it balances out. Teamwork.
I've got another question actually, because
Yeah.
I know that we've heard from Plonksy about an IL earlier, individual level.
Yes.
And ILs are important parts of communities. Do both of you, is that something that you both enjoy? Do you enjoy ILs, or is that not something that you particularly lend yourself to, Char Bunny?
Well, I personally record with a camera and phone, so it's been hard for me to record like long gameplays because I used to record on an old 2014 phone that couldn't have Streamlabs or any, live streaming service. So that's usually, but now I have a better phone that I can do it, but I still prefer ILs because it's shorter and it's easier. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, we actually have a pretty strong IL community compared to the full game because heck, Yoshi. I just lost it immediately again. Sorry, I had to focus there for a second. Really quick before I answer that question, here is one of the cooler Yoshi skips in the game. We're going to use him to go underneath that section of the level. I'm sorry, Yoshi. This is why he hates us. We hate him too, but that's a really cool skip. But for me, I think ILs are a really great break from the main game. So with the main game, when you're running for a 2-hour speed run, so much of it is about consistency over perfection. It's much better to be consistent than to be perfect on all of these levels. Whereas with an IL, it's a completely different scheme. You're aiming for that perfection because it's shorter. You can reach those levels of awesomeness, really. And so I think it's fun to be able to switch back and forth between the two modes. Do I want to just aim for consistency a day? Do I want to go for just like the frame perfect run of one of these levels and see if I can shave fractions of a second off of it? The other thing is because streaming a 3DS or recording with 3DS is a little bit iffy if you don't have a capture card. You do have to do like weird phone setups. It's a handheld game, which is a huge advantage in practicing it, but disadvantage in recording. A lot of people who do not have capture cards, and even people who do a lot of IL since it is much easier and more manageable to record for those shorter amounts of time rather than doing a 2-hour full game run. But the IL with this game, like I mentioned earlier, every single level is so independent that the ILs really do translate well into the full game runs. And so there's a lot of interplay between the full game run and the ILs as we find things as a community, which I think is really, really awesome. It's a very fun community to be in.
Yeah. Usually when you record with a phone, you're usually in a really awkward position where your phone is capturing from above, and so you can't really see the 3DS screen that well, or you're going to have to like put bad posture in while recording. So that's an issue. I've been recording like that for 4 years, so I've developed a little strategy to help myself a little bit, but it's still a little tricky.
Yeah, not the best. Here, this was a Mario 3 level. We're getting a Bowser Jr. optional fight at the end of it. I'm going for a shell jump, but there's like multiple strategies depending on what I get. So I did get the shell, so we get a try for this. Oh, I missed the shell jump though, but we're on the 3rd Bowser hit, so I'll just go. Oh, no, come on, come back, Bowser. There we go. I will do sort of the intended route. So the way out of this room is that pipe in the top right corner. You can do what I did and get Bowser Jr.'s cart in order to sort of fly your way up there and make progress. You can also do a shell jump off the right side of the screen to make it up there. You can also keep your leaf power up and fly to the top of the screen. You can also bait Bowser to the right side of the screen so you bop off of his head to the pipe. There's like so many ways to take that final fight, but it kind of depends on how Bowser Jr. decides to act that day. So there's some ways to try to bait him in different directions, but there's only so much you can do. So it's a really fun dynamic room where you should be able to do multiple routes based on whatever happens. I really do like those parts of the game where it's like, here's something where you should be ready. Oh, come on, Koopas, dude, Koopas are mean. You should be ready to do anything in some of these sections of the game. And I love it when I have to think on my feet for those sections and be ready for whatever the game throws at me. This level's a really sort of cute aesthetic one. We got little houses everywhere. You can actually go into all of the little houses. It's adorable. There's doorbells on some of the houses. So the car will actually make a honking sound. That block down there would have made like a little doorbell sound for the house. It's just absolutely precious. But unfortunately with the speedrun, we don't get to explore. It's just kind of there. So bye house. We're speeding for sure. This is probably a school zone and we should get in trouble for that. But we're through that level. And that brings us to 15-4, which is another platform scroller, but this is the one where I promised I would actually go for some of the tricky endings. This is not tricks that I would normally ever go through in one of my main runs, especially if I'm on good pace, because they're incredibly risky, but I practiced them to try and show you all today, so wish me luck on this one. Plonksy, do you want to explain how these work and why damage boosting is scary?
Okay, so in this beginning section, Char will grab a mushroom, which you'll use to deboost on one spike block gap to get to the next section as fast as possible. It's kind of tricky to do, but if you have it down and with enough repetition, you'll be able to get it consistently. And then later on in the level, she'll again have a mushroom that she got from that checkpoint, and hopefully try and keep it. And she'll be spin jumping on a group of chain chomps that are swinging back and forth on this track here. And it's not always that consistent because when chain chomps are swinging from the track, so it's kind of hard to always get correctly. But Char's been doing it for a long time, and she's like been able to get it fairly consistently. I think I'm the first person that did this, or some other person. I don't know, but
2 for 2.
yeah,
Let's
that.
Go. Sorry.
Nice job.
Thanks. I was really nervous about those tricks. I really wanted to at least get the chain chomp one because I think the chain chomp one just looks fantastically cool.
Yeah,
one of the hardest things about those tricks though is that you have to jump right after doing a damage boost. Now, normally timing a jump in a Mario game is a pretty standard sort of thing to do, so you wouldn't think it's that tricky. But normally you have sort of a running animation that you can look at, right? You can sort of count down your head when Mario's going to reach the spot where you want to jump from. When you do a damage boost, the game, as we've talked about a couple times, freezes for half a second. It's a little bit harder to time around that because at some point you're going to regain control of Mario and you have to be ready to jump immediately. The first jump in that level, the first skip, is actually the scarier one for me because you have to jump immediately when that damage boost ends, and there's not a great visual cue for when that's happening. I'm very much a visual cue type of speedrunner, so that jump is terrifying. There's lots of things that can go wrong, but we got it to work. I got to show both of them off, so I'm pretty happy about that one. Coming up next, World 16 is the one I said where we don't have auto scrollers. Yay, goes by pretty quickly. There's a pretty long level at the end of it, 16-4, which is going to be complicated, but first off, we're in 16-1, which is where we get our friend the donut blocks again. Now, we talked about them in 6-3. Not my favorite in the game. They're pretty difficult to get consistently, but at least this time they're not in an auto scroller, so we can move pretty fast. But basically with all of these, there's specific spots that are only a few pixels wide that I'm trying to land on for each of these donuts to get some of this optimal movement. There you can see what happens if you land just a little bit far off to the side. You get a tiny bit of different momentum and you have to sort of play it by ear to see how you can recover from that one. The ending of this level, funnily enough, is just 6-3 again, where you have a bunch of donut blocks moving along a platform on rails, but thankfully this time it's a much shorter segment, so we can just sort of clear through that without any sort of issue. 6-2 is a fun one. So I told you we don't have to worry, I actually don't know if I told you we don't have to worry about lives. Fun fact, we don't have to worry about lives in this game. We do have lives, they do count down if we lose them, but if you check the top left corner, you can see we're at 67 lives. It's not really a concern when you're speedrunning this game that you're gonna run out of lives unless you're brand new and struggling with World 4. But I want you to keep an eye on that counter because this level is going to move very quickly. So we're going to do a little bit of jumping at the beginning, and then we're going to get a star. And crucially, the star is going to let us run through every single other enemy in this level. And just keep your eye on that counter. We're already at, we're at 100. I couldn't even say an intermediate number before we reached 100 lives. So this level, as long as you get the star correctly, super easy level. You just run through everything. If you mess up getting that star, you will run out of star before the end of this level. You'll have to deal with the damage boost, which, as I've already said, throws off your timing on jumps a little bit. And if you somehow lose your mushroom and the star, the ending gets absolutely terrifying. But hey, that was a pretty clean one for today. 16-3 I like because I came up with a really dumb route for it. When I route things, I like them to be absolutely consistent if possible. And one of the cool things is that in this game, with some themes, you can actually get a spin jump. So World and NSMBU both have spin jumps in the game. Other themes do not. One of the things that's cool about spin jumps is they actually give you a different jump height that's very, very consistent. So here, I'm going to spin jump in the middle of each of these platforms here at the beginning, and that's going to let me land exactly on the next one, very, very consistently. If you try to do that with a full jump without spinning, you actually fall off the side. Do you need to follow that route? Do you need to spin jump through that level? Absolutely not. You can do whatever the heck you want to on that level. It's very straightforward. But I like having that consistency in my route to see if I can do the same thing every time. Hopefully I won't die as often, so fingers crossed. 16-4 is where things get really complicated though. So I'm going to be going for a trick at the end, but the first thing I have to do is actually do a ground pound to gain extra height in midair. This can take a few tries, but in Mario Maker 1, there it is. If you ground pound while in midair, you actually get a tiny bit of extra height as Mario jumps up into that ground pound. This was taken out in Mario Maker 2, but we can use it there to sort of skip, oh, I spin jumped early. You can sort of skip the beginning of the level if you get that timed right. We're going to use the ground pound here again to handle this conveyor belt section. If we're ground pounded, we're not going to be flung as far by the conveyor belts, and that's going to be really convenient. Here I do a spin jump. That is a very, very important spin jump because it sets me up for this triple jump. If you didn't know, when you do a spin jump, it sort of resets Mario's jump counter so that you can reset how many jumps it takes to get that triple jump. Here though, we get the Shelmet. This is the most important thing in the level. I want to keep this to the end with the Bowser fight because we're going to try to skip Bowser. Now, skipping Bowser in this particular level is random, so I may or may not get it through no fault of my own this time, but we're going to go for it. In order to do that, I am not doing a different trick. You can avoid getting this Yoshi by jumping off of that POW block on this next spike section, but instead I'm going to keep Yoshi because if I were to mess up the POW section, I could not attempt a Bowser skip. Oh, I barely missed this. And I do want to attempt that Bowser skip for all of you. If not, we're going to have to do a Bowser firefight, which is also really fun, but much slower. So fingers crossed for Bowser skip today. Whew, sorry, I know I'm talking fast on this level. There's just a lot going on this level that I want to make sure I give context for before we get to the next section. So here, the other important trick is that there are Sledge Bros at the bottom of the screen. You can see them down there throwing hammers. When they jump up, they can actually ground pound and it will paralyze Mario. So I want to be in the air when they hit the ground. Otherwise, shoot, I got the fire flower. I got really bad timing. So we can't do the Bowser skip anymore, but that's okay. We can do the full firefight. Basically, those Sledge Bros, you're going to see it in this fight as well. I missed my hat. This is going to be fun. The Sledge Bros at the bottom of the screen are something I have to keep my eye on because whenever they jump, you'll notice that I'm jumping too. Because if I don't match their jumps, I will get paralyzed in place and Bowser's next fireball will very likely hit me. Now what happened, unfortunately, that didn't let me show off the skip, I'm really sorry, is that I got the fire flowers. So the Sledge Bros in that first section where I was waiting around are random when they jump. And I got a really late jump from one of them, and so in order to try to dodge it, I had to jump late as well. That meant that I barely missed going over the bullet bill launcher that was shooting out fire flowers. Now you can only do the trick if you're small Mario, so because I got that fire flower with the late jump, I could not do the trick. That was a lot of explanation for something that didn't even happen. Basically what would have happened is I would have ducked underneath Bowser and just sort of zooped right underneath him into the axe. But the firefight's actually really fun too. I'll talk more about why Bowser firefights are really fun in 18-4, but for now we're in 17-1. So 17-1 is also a really cool level. I know all the levels are really cool except for like 14-4. In that it always has two routes through every single section of this level. This level is designed to have one route where you hit all of the question mark blocks at the bottom to release items that will let you progress, and a second alternate route where you do not need to hit the item blocks in order to make progress. I do here because it speeds up going through that little section, but really we just want to get the spring so we can skip having to blow up that bomb. And this is all intended by Nintendo. The metal route for this, one of them is to use all of the question mark blocks, and one of them is to not use any question mark blocks. So you do have to figure out both ways through the level if you want to get the 100%. It's really fun and creative, and as speedrunners it's kind of nice because it just gives us the choice of I don't have to play the parts that I don't think are fast. So yay! Oh my goodness, I know I'm going so fast here. That brings us to 17-2. 17-2 is a fun level where it's kind of choose your own adventure-ish with Dry Bones as your main enemy. So not only regular dry bones are going to be here, as you can see there, we're actually going to see a lot of giant dry bones. And part of the puzzle of this level is learning all of the different ways that you can murder these poor dry bones. So the first one is we can go up through a block underneath it, and that will bop it off. And here, there was a door to the right with a key. We need to go through that door, and we're going to get a key, but we cannot go through this pipe yet because there are hidden blocks blocking it off. Here, we're going to kill this particular dry bones with a POW block. The next one is going to be with a bomb. But Plunksy, do you want to explain why the bomb in the next room is so important?
Yes, of course, Slim Shady. So she's going to go into this next room, and she's going to grab a bomb. Basically, the bomb is on a timer, and she's going to run back into the door with the bomb. If you don't know, there's invisible blocks out of the pipe that she came out of to enter this building, and she's going to blow up those bricks with this bomb, as you just saw.
Yeah, and it's scary because you do have to time that throw. Because it's above you, you want to make sure you throw it up after the 6th bomb flash, which is, you have to count to 6, which is like harder than you would think it is when you're under pressure and also trying to move Mario around a screen, because you're constantly looking to make sure you get Mario in the right spot. You have to activate the blocks first, and then trying to make sure you're correctly counting those bomb flashes gets a little bit scary. But hey, we made it through that. That's one of the scary parts I was nervous about, so we're cruising on forward. 17.3 has a lot more bombs in it, so we're not done with bombs quite yet. And this one also has just a ton of things going on, especially in the first section of this level. So the first thing I need to do is clear away a pipe that's obstructed by blocks. And then I want to stay right here and keep at least a pixel of that pipe on my screen so it will spawn that cloud for me early. If not, I'd have to wait to spawn that cloud later. Here I'm staying out of frame of that Hammer Bros to reset its RNG so that it will just fire immediately when I get back. And that will let me consistently get underneath its hammer with that bomb to take it out. If you try to keep that in frame, it'll do a bunch more random stuff, and your chances of making it through that section unharmed are much, much lower. Here, I'm trying, oh, I got it, that's fun. I'm trying to go through all these sections as quickly as possible.
Nice.
Basically, the mechanic of this level, thank you, is that everything is, oh, I actually didn't get the jump. I was expecting a damage boost and I didn't get one. It's also scary if that happens. Oh, I'm just gonna go back and forth for a second. Basically, the mechanic of that second section is there's blocks that can be exploded by bombs, and if you do not move fast enough, you run out of ground to stand on. But thankfully, speedrunners, moving fast is kind of our thing, so we can usually make it through that section without having to worry about the actual difficulty of the second part of that level. Ooh, next up we get to 17.4. 17.4 is our next platform scroller. And this actually introduces an element to platform scrollers that I haven't talked about before. So we talked before about with platform scrollers how there's one giant death-defying jump at the end of the level. I'm not going to do a very death-defying jump at the end of this one, spoilers. But another thing that platform scrollers let you do that's interesting is they actually let you control enemy spawns. So one of the reasons this game uses auto-scrollers so often is to control enemy spawns and when they come on the screen to create different patterns and obstacles. There's a lot of different things you can do with auto-scrollers to make that happen. Here though, I'm in control of the scroll of the screen because it's a platform scroller, so I'm going to stand right here. This spot pretty much exactly. And what that does is it makes sure that I get one Goomba to spawn, but I don't get more than that, because the next one that will spawn will actually run off of the side of the chain chomp block. So it works out really well, and that's really the key element to getting this level down, is just knowing where to stand so that enemies will spawn at certain times. Here's the next one coming up where I want that first Goomba to spawn so it falls off the side of the platform, and I want the second one to spawn behind me so I don't have to deal with them whatsoever. It just makes the level a little bit safer. One of the reasons we got the mushroom is this ending. Those chain chomps are random and can go in a direction that prevents you from running through them, so the mushroom that we got is specifically so we don't have to worry about the chain chomp RNG at the end of this level. But thankfully the chain chomps were nice, and we saved a bonus half a second by not having to run into them, so hey, that's pretty awesome for us. 17.5 is going to come back to Mario 3. This is going to be an icy level. This game does have ice physics if you play with ice blocks, but for the most part, it doesn't really affect us. We're running fast, we're not really trying to change direction, which is the time when ice physics most come into play. So we're just going to move fast through this level, jump a whole bunch, lots of jumping, constant jumping, bounce off this enemy for style points, because there's no reason you need to do that level that way, and run to the next one. This next one, 17.6, is where I promise we talk more about conveyor belts. This is a level that is all about conveyor belts. So again, if a conveyor belt is moving forward, you want to stay on it. If it is moving backwards, you want to jump off of it as quickly as possible. Now the trick is, you end up moving fast when you're on some of these fast conveyor belts. There's actually 2 conveyor belt speeds, and this one is going at fast speed most of the time. So this level mostly comes down to memorization of which conveyor belts are going which way. At this speed, it's actually pretty difficult to read the level and see which conveyor belts are going which direction, so it's much better idea to just memorize which ones are coming up. Here are the slow ones that I'm going to try to jump off of. Here's fast ones. You'll see I'm trying to stay on those more, and that's how you optimize that particular level. It's actually really difficult to tie the IL for this one because you need to have really good first frame jumps off of the slow conveyor sections and stay on the fast conveyor belt sections for quite a long time.
I tried. I know.
It's a tricky one. Awesome. This next level is pretty chill, so Hypnotics, I know I haven't come back to you in a while. You still doing okay?
I'm holding up. It's all right. It's interesting. We were talking earlier. Well, in fact, we've sort of scattered around the run. You've mentioned the 100% and how it has different routes and sort of how to approach different stages. Is that something that you have tried, or something that you have tried, Palonxy?
I've done 100%.
Palonxy, yeah. Palonxy is the only person who currently has 100% time for this game on the leaderboard. I think it's something like 8 hours. It's an incredibly long category, so no one else has ever done it. Unfortunately for me, I did a charity stream last week, which was awesome. Like, thank you to my chat for raising money for charity. But it does mean that one of my incentives got met, which is I actually have to try 100% next week. So next Saturday, all day long, I'll be attempting to do 100% in this game. I'm expecting it to take 8 to 12 hours. So there is a 100% category for this game. Almost no one runs it. There are some ILs for it, but I don't even think this game has a fully filled out IL chart for 100% because of how tricky that category is. So lots of adventures.
I mean, I have strategies, but that's about it.
Yeah. This next level is really interesting strategy-wise. We have our Yoshi again. Hi, Yoshi. We're going to get this fireball. Now, this fireball is important because it shoots 3 directions, and we're going to shoot it from right on top of this cannon here. There it is. And that's going to line it up so that it will actually take out 3 bombs in this next section. I have to go fast to make sure I can get to them to spawn in time to catch up with that fireball. But then I'm kind of good. I can go get this one up, wait for Yoshi to join me off of this elevator, and that's going to clear our path to continue. So that's a really precise thing that you have to do right at the start. The end of this level is random, because Hammer Brothers are random, so I can get any sort of pattern here. I'm hoping for nice ones. I got a mean one, but I remembered to pay attention to it, so I'm fine. Once you get past that section, the Hammer Brothers on the bottom row will always jump up, so you're safe once you can get past that first part. Yoshi, come back. I don't trust Bowser today. Bowser can jump or not, so he's also randomness right at the end. But thankfully, this is one of the levels where I'm actually thankful for Yoshi because it makes the ending so much safer. You can't do the ending of this level without Yoshi. You need to get, I think, optimally a 1 in 8 luck and execute on it incredibly well. I did get it for an IL. I never want to do that IL again. But tons of randomness, and unfortunately, that's like the most random level in this entire speedrun, and it's right at the end. So you can be doing absolutely amazing and then get thrown off by one of the weirder Hammer Brothers patterns and lose a ton of time. But with Yoshi, there are definitely ways to play that safe so you can get to the ending fairly consistently and not lose a ton of runs to that particular level, but it's definitely a run killer when you're starting off. 18-1 gets us back into Koopa Cloud Car World. Whew, anyone missed that? And air bloopers, 2 for 1. What I'm gonna do is gonna line up a yay. Gonna line up a shot there to get rid of the first ones. I happen to get lucky on my blooper patterns. Blooper patterns are pretty random, so I can keep my fire flower, and that's great for the first room, but it's actually gonna make the second room harder. So you're gonna see thwomps on the bottom of your screen over there to the right, and they're sort of locked behind these blocks. I do not want to shoot 3 fireballs and break those blocks. If I break those blocks before the thwomps do, they will come hurtling down toward me and they will thwomp me straight into the lava. There is no escaping from that. You instantly die even with a fire flower. I lost my fire flower here, so we get to do a scary mid-air Koopa Clown Car transfer to get a backup one. There we go. That's terrifying. And you definitely want to be careful with that thwomp section. The reason you really want a fire flower here is because you're clearing out that section, and it's so much faster to clear through those cinder blocks if you do have a fire flower. From the rest of this level, it's pretty straightforward. I'm just hitting some off-screen enemies, dodging around a couple things, mostly trying not to take damage. That's really all you're optimizing in the second section, because you're just going to the right. But then we're at the end of this level, which is nice. Yay! Oh, no, come on, get around that block. The next one is very, very short. It's one of the shorter levels in the game, I think. It's all around wigglers. And so it'll show us a bunch of different types of wigglers, wigglers on the ground, wigglers jumping around. My favorite are the wigglers at the end. Keep an eye out for the last 2 wigglers, which are giant winged wigglers, and their wings look like they're waving at us, so that's my favorite part of that level. The beginning of it, though, is a little bit scary, because what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to use those conveyor belts for speed again, get those back, but this time we need to jump off of one at a precise time to make sure we don't run into an enemy. So the beginning of this level, A-okay, I'm going to jump off of the 3rd notch of this I did a little early, I did 2nd notch of that final conveyor belt section, and if you jump too late, you actually run into a wiggler right there at the end, so it's not a great place to be. And here's the waving wigglers. Hello, friends. Sorry I jumped on your head. But this is one of those ones where, because that jump is so tight to do optimally, it can really be difficult to do on nerves. So this is another level where if you're on good pace, you're at the end of the run, your heart's pounding because you're about to get a PB, very good chance you die to wigglers there. So good thing to practice. Make sure you know your route through that level. That's not one you want to be improvising by any means. 18-4 is our next Bowser fight. I really love this level. It's super fun. We're going to actually defeat Bowser in 2 different ways. So if you are a fan of Super Mario... Oh, no, wait, this is not the Bowser fight. I'm thinking of 18-4, and we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Instead, we get to do this level. This level, tiny bit of RNG right here. Yeah, tiny bit of RNG right here waiting for the boot to spawn. That's one of those pipe spawn RNG things that's a little bit random, unfortunately. Oh no, I missed. We have to wait for the second cycle on this door. Just fine, because it gives us time to talk about things. So pipe RNG, a little bit random. We're also getting a little bit of Bowser Jr. RNG up here in the next room. That's in the room after this one. Bowser Jr. can either go forward or backward. We want him to go backward. It does not really change that much, but hey, it's something. It saves us some time. So Bowser Jr., please be nice. Oh, we got mean Bowser Jr. So you can see he's stuck on those little bouncing platforms for a little bit, which delays him getting over to this side of the screen, which is what loses us a little bit of time. But hey, it's not too bad in the grand scheme of things. That's completely out of our control. I'm getting this checkpoint mostly for the mushroom. You'll notice at this point I'm pretty stocked up. I've got a mushroom and a boot. The boot is going to let me skip this in-level platform scroller they decided to include for some reason, because I can hop on these spikes and use it to get around and get these red coins to unlock the door without having to wait for this incredibly long platform scroller section. This mushroom we'll use a bit later, but here's our first instance of it should have been RNG, but it's not. In this room, I am holding right. All I did to kill that Magic Koopa is hold right. It's the best trick in the game, just very easy to learn. Here, I'm gonna need to do a little bit more moving to get these Magic Koopas. Now, if I do this correctly, which I'm gonna stop talking to do, there we go, I'll get the key and that room will look like it's trivially easy. Nothing wrong whatsoever, right? That was pretty smooth. If you missed that trick, you are now fighting 3 Magic Koopas, all of which move around randomly and fire magic randomly, and you do not have a way to tell which one of them has the key that you need. So that room gets awful if you make a mistake. And what's hilarious about this level is it is the level that introduces us to Magic Koopas, which are a traditionally incredibly random Mario enemy. But this level's randomness is from Bowser Jr. and one pipe. The Magic Koopas, if you play this level optimally, do not actually cause any RNG to happen. You just kill them before they get the chance. So really cool level that you just kind of ignore the Magic Koopa component of it, but that's one of those ones where if it gets out of hand, it gets out of hand quickly. Here is 18-4, which is what I thought we were on before, where we get 2 Bowser fights. So if you're a fan of Mario Bros. 3, you will recognize this Bowser kill, but basically, the way this level works is there's 2 parts to it. Here's part 1. Things are a little bit nicer in part 1 than part 2. Warning, we are going left in part 2, so just be ready for that. This first Bowser, though, it's fast to kill him with fire, but we're actually gonna try for a different type of kill. I'm standing specifically on the thin part of this bridge, and Bowser did not want to cooperate, so we're gonna fire kill him anyway. Basically, I have to go over here. Basically, Bowser can ground pound himself through those blocks, as you can see, and if he does that on one of the 1 block wide parts of that bridge, he will actually fall into the void, and we don't have to fire kill him. It's a little bit faster to fire kill him with optimal RNG, but we rarely get optimal RNG, as you've seen from this run, so not worth risking. The second Bowser, however, we are going to fire kill, and that's because he is too tall for his own good. Like, picture a T-Rex, that's this Bowser. If we stand close enough to him, he cannot hit us. And not only that, but that's actually perfect for speedrunning, because the closer we are to Bowser, the faster we can match fireballs. Fireballs with Mario, you can usually fire 2 at once, and once those 2 leave the screen, you can fire the next 2. Well, if we stand right next to Bowser, they leave the screen immediately once they hit Bowser, and so we can actually kill him faster. So Bowser fights in Mario games in general, and this one I love. They're this huge risk-reward thing. I said risk-reward a lot. I just like that phrase, I think. Where the closer you're standing to Bowser, the faster you're dealing damage to him, but the more likely you are to get hit if you're not careful about moving back. So Bowser fights in this game all about optimizing your distance to Bowser. That is D2B. Here at this level, really simple for how late it is in the game, but the reason it's so late is because look at this bottom mechanic, right? This whole mechanical contraption on the bottom of the screen is really complex and shows off how you can get this shell to get all of the coins for you and basically do all of Mario's work. As you can see, my job's really easy. I just have to fly through, so it's kind of weird at first glance why this level is in World 18 of all things, but keep in mind, this game is around teaching you Mario mechanics, not playing Mario. So this is a complicated mechanic to... That is 100% too. This level has a complicated mechanic to teach the player, which is why it comes in so late in the run for how simple it is to actually execute. This next level is not simple to execute as a speedrun. Plunkzy, do you want to talk about Yoshi and Sauce and all the fun we've got in store?
Okay, well, this level, it's a airship, but airship theme, but there is no airship. You have fast skull rafts, and you have to use Yoshi to maneuver through this level if you want to do it optimally. What you're going to do with Yoshi is you're going to jump on a bunch of saws and a bunch of flying bob-ombs to get to the end goal as fast as possible, as you'll see here. Very tricky, very hard, especially to do optimally, as you can see here. And then at the end, she'll be jumping off Yoshi to reach the flag faster, because if you don't get Yoshi, you'll have to flutter, and then that won't even get you to the goal.
That that level is definitely like one of the scary final bosses of the run, where you're just trying to land on these tiny spots. And if you were watching carefully, I actually almost died a couple times. You could hear Polanski hesitate because he could see that I was close to death. And it's because, similar to donut blocks with Mario, saw blocks with Yoshi actually have that fully directional momentum mechanic where you can hit them in a tiny fraction of a different spot and it will give you a completely different bounce. So there were a couple times where I got bounces I wasn't anticipating and I had to sort of backtrack a bit to make sure I was going to be able to stay on track. This level is another auto-scroller, but this one's actually kind of fun too. Like we were talking about earlier, some of the auto-scrollers in this game are actually kind of fascinating. And this one comes down to a couple things. One, you can see I'm holding a shell. If you're holding an item in this theme, it actually, oh, really quick, this is putting the Thwomps in timeout. I just like to put them in timeout because they're too grumpy. So I put them up here and you can hear him throwing around, having his pouty fit up there, but he cannot actually hurt anyone because he's in trouble. But when I'm holding this shell, Mario's swimming mechanics actually work differently. Also, sorry, copy-paste bloopers. There's 12 of them in this section. There's no need for 12 bloopers. Basically, if you're holding a shell, Mario will constantly swim upward. You can see I lost it there for safety, which is absolutely fine. And so you need to constantly tap downward to keep him in the middle of the screen. He will also, however, swim slightly faster to the left and right. Oh, I want to be here. Thank you. Okay. Which is very useful when you're trying to go for speed. Now, this is an auto-scroller level for the most part, so it doesn't make a huge difference, but it does save you a fraction of a second at the start and end of this level, so you better bet we're doing it for the speed run. This section, I am being very careful to hit these hidden blocks here, because what comes out of these bullet bill launchers is not actually bullet bills. It is angry red underwater wigglers, which are probably the most dangerous enemy in the game. Like, I know Bowser's scary and all, king of all Koopas, but like, I would rather face 10 Bowsers than one angry red underwater wiggler. I know, dangerous to say after I've died to Bowsers a couple times in this run, but seriously, they're awful. You will see them here in a little bit because there is a second part to this. Oh, it's not really a second part, it's just I think of it as a second part, where I'm going to be up here in order to bait them to go in a loop-de-loop around me. So they're gonna come out of these pipes, and I'm going to do my best to dodge them, but you will immediately see that not only are they just awful, they are actually like heat-seeking missiles that will follow you around and stay on screen for way longer than necessary. So even though that one left the screen, it's back for action. If you do not cover up those bullet bill launchers at the beginning of the level, they will follow you for the entire rest of the level and make it very likely that you'll take a death. And this is a long level right at the end of your run. You do not want that. So it is absolutely crucial to know how to get rid of those hidden, or know how to hit those hidden blocks in order to block off those bullet bill launchers and prevent that enemy from coming in. With that though, we are on the final level of this run, so time will be when I hit the axe at the end of this level. This is one of the longer levels though, so you still have a couple minutes on that. But this level is just fantastic. It's just all the way up there. It's another one of those room by room levels where sort of you're constantly optimizing each individual room to try to make little tiny parts of this level faster. So this room, you can pick up the Koopa. There's actually like small micro things you do to pick up the Koopa faster. I will try to narrate this room. I'm gonna be going too fast. Here I'm gonna try to jump around this little tiny platform so that I can get lower to the wall earlier so I can jump around this. I jump over the pipe so that it doesn't prevent the power from spawning, throw out the spring frag, and then try to jump on top of it to get back to the pipe. I can't even talk fast enough to explain everything that's happening in that one tiny room at this level. And so many of the rooms of this level are like that, where there's just a ton of small things you're doing and that I'm looking for as a speedrunner to try to make sure I'm optimally hitting all of these angles. This is, I know I've said for at least one level before, but this is probably actually the hardest IL to get fully optimized because of how much tiny detail there is in every single room in this entire game in order to get it to work. Like this, I'm in the same room again. I took a completely different route in order to get a spring differently, and that time I ran over the pipe to prevent the POW from spawning. So just very, very intricate. This room, I'm gonna try for a trick. I might not get it. I'm gonna try to bounce off of this Koopa, off of the wall, do a wall jump. I barely missed it. I tried. That's another spot where you can do a mid-air spring jump to save some time, but you need to jump off of the Koopa high enough, get your momentum back toward the pipe. Oh, please don't come after me. Oh, shoot, stop spawning. There we go. Get your momentum off of the pipe, do a wall jump, which means you actually have to drop the spring to do the wall jump. Like, you have to throw it. You cannot do a wall jump with a spring normally. Pick it back up and then do a mid-air spring jump. So it's a very complicated trick. Thankfully, it's very safe if you miss it, but it always kind of feels bad because you're right at the end of your run at this point. For this room, we get the mushroom, and then we're going to damage boost through the first few fire jets. This last set, I will not be able to damage boost through, so I'm actually going to wait for a little second to make sure that I don't run into them while they're still active. I have died before from running into those too soon, and it's really quite tragic. This next trick Polanski found is super fun. I'm going to shoot exactly 2 fireballs at these spinies to change the height of that bullet bill launcher. I'm going to do a triple jump off of specifically the left side of that bullet bill launcher, which just gives me barely enough height to get in the pipe at the top of the room. That skips an entire room in this level, which is actually one of the slowest rooms in this level. So I'm really glad we have that trick. That room that we skipped is not fun at all. Here, I'm going to play it a little bit safe to wait for that saw to come through, and I'm going to keep my propeller. The optimal route does drop the propeller, but we're trying to finish the level, so we're not going to do that. This is our final Bowser Jr. fight of the game. We're going to wall jump, try to see if we can knock one of these platforms down early. We could, that's okay. And then we're actually going to go to the final room with, we have one more room before that, but the final part of this is Bowser. Now, very sadly, in my opinion, we don't actually fight the Bowser. We just skip the Bowser. What I'm going to do is shoot one fireball off screen in order to break some blocks that you don't see, but you'll see as we run toward them. So here we go, one fireball. I'm going to damage boost down so I can fit through the gap I created, and time! There we go, that was time.
GG!
Thanks! So yeah, unfortunately, we don't actually even get to fight the final Bowser in this game. We just sort of finished the level, so I'm a little sad you do fight him for 100%, but there we go. That was 88 Mario levels, and hopefully under 2 hours. Do you know what my final time was?
Oh yeah, it's definitely well under 2 hours, don't worry about that. It's looking like it's going to be sort of a high 153, or 153.41 is when you hit the X.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the reason that I'm very glad that I finished under time, by the way. But the reason that particular number is funny is almost always when we race this game, I get a 153. I will die in random places. I will make completely different mistakes, and somehow 153 is always what ends up on the timer. So despite the very long deaths, this was a very typical no reset run for me. So hopefully you enjoyed. I did show off some tricks that I normally wouldn't. Here's our final cutscene reminding you that there was somehow a story in this game where we rescue Princess Peach and she says, "Thank you, Mario, you're my hero." And whatever costume you're in for the finale, you do get. So we are a small Mario, you can be a large Mario, you can be Propeller Mario, which is my favorite because I think Mario looks absolutely ridiculous next to Princess Peach with his propeller hat. But yeah, we have a cutscene, or we have a final credits I'm going to skip because we don't need to watch that today. And then our final cutscene is between those two side characters, Mary O, who's the human on the left, and Yamamura, who's the pigeon on the right on that bottom screen. They have been teaching us tips and tricks about how to create levels, talking to us throughout our journey. We ignore them as speedrunners because, you know, we know things, so we're good. I've heard them talk many times at this point. But yeah, so that is Super Mario Challenge Mode. That is the 88 levels in the story mode of this game. Hope you had fun. I think we've got some more Mario action, but I don't know if you want to take a break first. We have World 19 still to do.
Yeah, we're going to have a little break. Before we do, though, you talked about the costumes at the end, and I think we're all wondering, can you be Weird Mario at the end?
Unfortunately, there is no Weird Mario in the final level. So I know. That would be so cursed, though. If anyone wants to Photoshop that in, I would be scared.
Weird Mario with a princess.
Yeah, I think it's only in the first Mario Bros. Theme, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, well. Anyway, that was a brilliant run. Thank you so much. I think everybody was absolutely loving that. But we've got some more coming up. We are going to have another break. So quick posture check. Make sure that you're staying hydrated. Make sure that you're moving around. Everything's loose. And we will be back very, very soon with, I believe, this is level 19, right?
World 19, it's a whole bonus world that you haven't seen yet. It's actually never been shown on the GDQ stage. It gives you a whole bunch of bonus content.
Ooh, everybody, you want to see that. So yeah, we will be back very, very soon. Hello everybody, welcome back. If you thought that the Mario madness from today has stopped, that is by no means the case. We have got World 19 coming up in a sec, but I know that a lot of people have might have caught this show a little bit late, so don't fret, because this run will be uploaded very shortly after this show is finished on the youtube.com/gamesdonequick YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out, as well as the highlights that will be going out on the GDQ Summer Best Segments channel, which is recently launched on YouTube. And yeah, you'll catch the best moments, although I would highly recommend watching all of this show because this has been incredible, and I hope that this is going to be just as good. Child Bunny, all yours.
I'll do my best to make it just as good. So if you're still with us from the break, then you saw that we completed Super Mario Challenge, which is the main story mode of this game, which contains 88 levels. Now, the game actually came with 100, so where are the other 12? The other 12 are actually in a bonus world called World 19. Very creative name, I know. But the way that we get to that is not actually through this game mode. Secretly, there's multiple game modes to this game. So if you look at the menu that I have on the bottom screen, Super Mario Challenge is what we just did. Course Maker is if you want to make your own levels. Course Worlds is if you want to play some of the other categories of this game. We have actually 100-man categories that are super random because you're playing random levels from the internet. So if you want just absolute chaos, check those out. And then we have Course Spot. Course Spot is the level select of this game, where we can not only see all of the levels that we just completed, so here's every single level that I just beat, but also any custom courses that we've built. So here's where I have practice courses for specifically 19.9, which is going to be coming up, I'm scared, and 13.2, which is one of the ones that I said we just got a new route for. So some exciting things there. One of the other cool details I just like to show off is because I've cleared this game 100%, the little birds right here on my screen, one, if you tap on them, they chirp, which is just adorable, but they actually have a little crown and a little necklace. They get bling when you beat the game 100%, which is just really cute. But here's all the levels that we just beat. You can see that we played a lot of Mario today already, and here's the final world, World 19. Now, I do have to play this out of level select, which means I have to do a completely different menuing from before. I'll explain that once we get into the first level here. Actually, we're just gonna start the first level because it does, it's Mario Maker. It starts on an auto-scroller, so we're just gonna get going. Time will start when I hit play. Are we ready for time?
I believe we are.
Yay, then let's start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm gonna need it for some of these later ones. So World 19 is the bonus world, and the way that you unlock it is a little bit different than how you unlock the other levels. So most of the levels in this game, once you beat them in the Super Mario Challenge mode, that story mode, you'll unlock them in Core Spot to play. World 19, however, you will only unlock once you get certain numbers of medals, which again are those 100% challenge, 48, quite a few. One of those 100% challenge requirements. So the only reason I can play these levels is because I've gotten a lot of medals. You'll see that I grabbed a spring here. That is not at all required. This is just like a comfort spring, going back to the analogy of holding a teddy bear, although I like bunnies, so this would be like a bunny I'm holding just for comfort. So I have a
Or for me, a
level.
Goomba.
For you, a Goomba, that sounds much more deadly to hold on to. And really, this level is all about, similar to other levels, these levels get very heavily themed to teach you different mechanics that you can try out. So it's an auto-scroller so that all of these springs will stay in formation as they're moving through the level. These springs would not stay in formation if it was not an auto-scroller, which is why it happens to be this theme. But again, World 19 in summary, you unlock it by beating other levels and getting their medals. That was a bit scary, didn't mean to do it that way. And once you have them, you need to keep getting medals to unlock more. So each of the levels has its own medal requirement that you need to get to, but you have to just keep moving through. That was the first one. It is one of the auto-scrollers. There are a couple in this particular game mode, but the key thing is menuing. What I have to remember is to hit the middle button at the end of each of these levels. Normally in speedrunning, I hit the top one, which is for next. Here I have to hit exit course, which just throws me the heck off. This level, I'm gonna just try to do real quick. It's scary as heck. I'm off. No, I got it first try. Let's go.
Wow. Jeez.
Sorry I didn't explain that beforehand. I just sort of had to go for it. That is the shortest level in the game, coming in at 6 seconds. It is not intended to be, if you blinked and you missed it, it was a whole platform scroller that's supposed to be a minute long, but with very careful jumps across enemies that are way more precise than they look. You can actually beat that one in a blazing 6 seconds. So that's a really fun level. That's my favorite level to show off. The only problem is it's really hard, so it usually takes me a couple tries to get. I'm actually incredibly surprised we got that first try. This level, much more straightforward, just sort of running and jumping. This level actually has a medal challenge though, with beating it in under a certain amount of time. And this is actually the level that made me realize I wanted to speedrun this game. Getting that medal challenge for the 100% and realizing, hey wait, I'm beating this level fast and having fun at it. That's speedrunning, isn't it? Is what made me want to run all of the rest of this level. So if you enjoyed this, you can thank 19.3 for being well designed. 19.4 is less well designed, so I talked a bit about pipe RNG and how that can throw things off. The beginning of this level, the patterns that you get change based on that pipe RNG. That second shoe can spawn in at a bunch of different times, and that can change up how you need to handle the beginning of this level. The ending of it has a really scary jump that I'm going to go for at least once, but it's scary, so we'll have to see how it goes. A lot of the ending of this is over pit, so I'm going to try to jump right... Oh, that was too late. I can't go for it, sorry. Right at the end of that conveyor belt, if you jump, you can actually skip the first Koopa. But conveniently for this level, if you realize you jumped at the wrong time, you can recover by hitting that first Koopa and then bouncing to the second one. So I did a recovery strat that still ended up working out pretty well. Again, for this, I have to do a lot more menuing. One thing to note is I am menuing using a stylus, and that is because if you want to use button inputs, you actually have to hit the button twice. Once to activate button inputs and the second time to actually do the input. So if you're playing this game, it is much faster to menu using touch control. So that is what I will be doing. This level is the reverse P-switch level. It's so awesome. Basically, it creates this incredible sense of urgency where if you don't meet the P-switch timer, you do die. It's kind of like 2-4, which we did all the way back. Oh, I'm going to be cutting it a little bit closer, actually. We're good. It's kind of like 2-4 where I skipped the P-switch way back at the beginning over that scary lava section, but in that level, if you made a mistake, as you could see from my path through it, there was still a way to make progress in the level. This one, if you miss it, you die. So it's a little bit more advanced, that's why it is in this bonus world, but as you can see, I'm hitting these P-switches to create these pathways through the level that otherwise would be impassable. Now, this is Speedrun, we got a few tricks up our sleeve. We're actually going to skip the last P-switch in this level in order to shortcut through the end. The end would have been a maze of blocks, there's the one I'm skipping, and instead of sort of going back and forth through that long block maze, we're going to skip that P-switch and then use some careful jumps around individual blocks at the end of the level to skip all of that mess and make it to the end in a lot faster time. So this is... I have so many favorite shortcuts in this game. I absolutely love this one. I think this one is so cool and creative, and the fact that it just barely works makes it so much fun. If those 2 block sections weren't there, we could not do that trick, so I'm very happy that they exist. 19.6 is... Their menuing in this is so much more complicated than in the main speedrun. 19.6 is going to be our next auto-scroller. My favorite thing to do here, because it's not that interesting, it's just showing you that you can put fire bars on rails. Woo! Now you know. Is to try to take these Koopa shells and balance them on top of these different fire blocks. So the reason this is a little bit tricky is because they're moving, and the shells, as you can see, will try to go around them a bit more. They will land on them a little bit, but you can see that one even bounced more times than normal because the movement of that block kind of throws things off, sorry. So let's see if I can land this one here. Oh, that was a lot closer to center. That was a higher point score in my imaginary point system for keeping this level interesting than the other ones. So 2 for 2 on shell blocks on this level. As with any autoscroller, the main thing I'm doing is just sort of following some route-ish to keep myself out of trouble until we get to the ending where I can start to go for the actual end of this level. So what I'm mostly doing is watching that fire bar that's in front of me, because there's a certain signal that I'm at the end of the level that I'm watching for here. Because why not? I can also get this 1-up mushroom, so there we go. Lives do not matter in this game mode because we are in level select. We have infinite lives to do whatever. Here's my signal. I'm looking for that fire bar to leave the screen again. There it is, and that lets me know I can run to the right and get up here to this pipe. I forgot the shell shows up if you actually get it to bounce on there, so I kind of got caught off guard and panicked for a second, hoping it wouldn't come back and murder me, but thankfully there was a gap on the right side of the screen that let it clear out. And there we go. That's one of our last auto-scrollers. That might actually be our final auto-scroller in this game, which is kind of cool. Yeah, the World 18, by the way, is the longest world in the game. The other, World 18 is sort of the second longest with 8 levels. World 19 actually has a full 12 levels, which is quite a few, but they go by quickly if you know how to handle them. Here we're gonna get our air quotes friend Yoshi again, and we're gonna try to use him to do a skip at the end of the level, but if we miss it, it's not really that big of a deal. This level is all about cinder blocks falling down from the sky and creating platforms for us to move on. Oh, there we go. We lost Yoshi early because we missed the jump. That's okay. But the cool thing about cinder blocks is that if we go fast enough, we don't actually have to wait for them. These ones we are going to wait for because without Yoshi, we do have to do a little bit more caution, but I almost got it anyway. For the most part, we just sort of have to play this level as intended. There's a skip if I had Yoshi where I could try to get over that last set of blocks and on top of them and do some 1-block wide jumps to get to the end, but the good news is Yoshi also acts as a safety net, so if you miss any of your jumps with Yoshi, which is easier to do with Yoshi than without, you can still make progress and you don't actually have to take the death. So thank you, Yoshi, for your sacrifice. Appreciate it. 19.8 is our next sort of option path one. This is similar to, I believe, 17.1 in that there's actually 2 intended routes through each of these sections. And the way you get 100% is by doing all of the harder routes, which are the ones where you don't use the key. So for each of these sections, I can either get the key and use it on the door, or like I'm gonna do next time, I can get the key or not get the key and do something else to skip the door. So in this case, it's doing spin jumps off of a thwomp to get up higher. But I'm gonna start stacking up keys in order to start to use doors and skip things. So every single section, I've got a choice of which way I want to go. Here I actually have to wait for the chain chomp because it's being rude. It's random which way it goes. And it went toward the direction I needed to be in, so I had to take a little bit of a pause. We kept this P-switch all the way from the beginning because we're going to use it here in order to get past this section here with the Magic Koopas without having to wait for them. So once again, as is the theme for quite a bit of this game, there's Magic Koopas which would normally be crazy amounts of RNG, but we just don't care because we go fast. This is where we see like the micro optimizations this particular level gets. I could have gotten a key in the last room. I get the key here instead. It saves fractions of a second to do it this way. Here I get Yoshi specifically so I don't have to worry about the RNG of these Hammer Brothers, and that is the last key in the level, which means we're almost at the end. So this entire level, really, really creative, really complex to route. Like this is one of the most routing intensive levels in the game. I spent hours trying to figure out the optimal 90% strategy for the IL. But the nice thing is, hey, if you're learning this game, you can pick whatever route works for you. There's 2 options at least for every single section. This next level is the one that I showed you in my practice levels. This is the one I am the most scared of out of everything in the entire run because the second half of it is brutal. The first half can be brutal too, but the second half is where I'm really nervous. So for strategy for the first half is stay on the green mushrooms. This is how my speedrunning brain thinks. If I can come up with a dumb, simple thing like that to remind myself where to go, I will take it. Here I'm going to try to jump on this particular section because it's moving to the right, and anytime we can move to the right, we're good. And I'm going to try to do a difficult duck jump underneath one of these and on top of the next one. Duck jumping is when you jump while Mario is ducked, and it gives you a little bit smaller hitbox that can help you navigate through narrow corridors. Here's the fun part. I have to jump across all of these one-tile wide springs. And here's the thing, if you miss a spring, it likes to spring you off to the side. There we go, like that. I am somehow not dead. Unfortunately, we're actually gonna take the level slowly. I don't think I can do the skip anymore. Let me try to get up. My hands are actually shaking, so I'm gonna stop doing that and try not to fall off. So here we go, here's this. I am gonna do the skip from here though. Oh, I didn't make it in time. So we're gonna try to catch back up. I caught back up, all right, that's the save. Basically, what I would have been trying to do is try to jump across a lot of these platforms that you'll sort of barely see at the top of the screen up here. Like jump to this early, and that will let me skip some of the waiting parts of this level. But the trick is getting on top of the final spring in the first section is actually the very peak of Mario's jump height. You cannot jump directly toward it because the spring will spring you the other way. You have to jump up, stall in midair to reach the peak of your jump, and then cross over to it. And I was having trouble with that. And while I wanted to show that off, my hands actually were shaking because of how nervous I was for that level. So I'm glad that we were able to get a ridiculous backup instead that never should have worked, but somehow did. So you got to see just very interesting improvisation happening. This is another one of those room by room levels, although this time it's supposed to be a little bit spooky and puzzly. The key item here is going to be a cape, which we're going to unlock by breaking those blocks, and then stand right here to trigger that block to fall while we're waiting for it, which always reminds me of Pikmin, because that's the game where I spend the most time multitasking. Here, the key thing to watch out for is the star. We want to get it pretty late if possible, so right there is probably fine, because we're going to want to see if we can keep it through the next two sections. So here, I've got a bit of a vine climbing section, so I want to just optimally get up to this door, and then if I did this correctly and have enough timer, I'll be able to run through this swamp that's blocking the pipe without having to get a second star. That is the key important thing for this level, is to try to get that movement to work. From here on out, we're going to have a series of rooms with 3 enemies each, the largest of which is the third one always, will have a key for us, and with the cape we can actually take out any of these enemies pretty quickly. The problem is if I lose the cape too early, I have to go all the way back to the first room in the sequence to get another one, so it's very important that you play this a little bit safely if you don't want to lose a ton of time. But with that, we were able to kill all of the enemies, meaning we were at the end of this room, and this level is done. Whew. Hope everyone's keeping up. Thankfully, there will not be a quiz later, so it's okay if this doesn't make sense. But I'm doing my best to explain everything that I can as we go through. That does mean we only have 2 levels left. This is going really fast for this section. This is a newer section to integrate into the speedrun, so I'm really happy with how this works. This level, unfortunately, is where Magic Koopas get their revenge. So if you remember from the beginning, there were a couple levels that we've done where Magic Koopas were there, but they weren't really a factor in the level because we went a little bit too fast for them to be able to keep up with us. This is the level where that trend ends and we get to see the full fun that is random RNG Magic Koopas. I will be able to skip the first one if I play this correctly, but I will not be able to skip the second. So in order to skip the first one, I need a shell. That's going to let me progress. So I'm going to say hi to this Koopa here, steal its shell, and then try to make sure I keep moving throughout the level. The thing is, if I take too long, this shell will sort of come back to life, and I really do want this mushroom as well, because guess what? There's Hammer Bros here too. Thanks, game. So here I'm going to toss the shell to break a block, and I'm going to try to jump and slide underneath that gap to make it through. Here's where the Hammer Brothers are mean. Oh, we might get to skip the second one. So what I'm going to try to do here, nope, I messed it up. We're going to try again. Is if I play this really correctly, which I didn't, but it's close enough, I can actually not have to wait for the Magic Koopa to get through that section because as large Mario, I can break the bricks below me. However, usually I will lose something to those Hammer Brothers and I will not be able to make it through. So that was actually a very unique run of this level. That is almost never what happens, but there is a separate strategy for if you magically get through the Hammer Brothers without taking damage. So we didn't actually have to wait for the Magic Koopa, and I lied to everyone and I apologize for that. But with that, we are on to the final level of this game. Time will be when we hit the flagpole at the end of this level. I think this is a fantastic final level for this game. It does not have a Bowser fight, so a little bit sad there, but it is all about moving Mario and just understanding how to platform. So this entire level is around testing your ability to wall jump, not so much teaching it, but testing. And the 100% for this particular, sorry, these levels are actually really new for me, so I still sometimes mess up my route in a way that's a little bit uncommon. So there's a death. We almost went deathless through World 19. That's okay. This level is all about testing your ability to wall jump. And so the final medal challenge for these levels is actually to, let me do this correctly this time, there we go, is to do this entire level without touching the ground once you make your first jump and while getting all the coins, which is a really, really fun final challenge. And I do love this as a final level for the game. Here though, we are almost at the end. I'm going to try to do a wall jump off of this side. Gets me to this enemies. If I do this really well, I almost did it. I could have gotten a triple jump. I'm going to be really careful not to fall off the side here because I don't want to die again. Run off this platform. A little bit short on that, but we have the mushroom for that reason and time. There we go. That is the final level out of 100 levels in this game. That is all of the custom level or the built-in levels for Super Mario Maker for Nintendo 3DS.
Nicely done. GG. That was oh my goodness, that was such an incredible showcase. I'd sort of gone into this show, I was feeling a little bit tired today, but that's really sort of woken me up, and yeah, incredible job. Well done. Is there anything that you'd like to say? Is there any shout outs to the community?
I am almost out of words to say with how many I've been saying so far, but I would definitely like to shout out the community. It's really cozy. Like I said, there's a bunch of runners who run the full game, run the ILs as well, which is a huge contribution to the full game. So Blonksy, Juice ACD, Manfretti, and Pengo5 are some ones who've been helping out a lot lately. Obviously, huge shout out to Palonxy for being here with me on commentary. It really helps to have someone talk during the hard levels. And Palonxy was sort of the first person who welcomed me into the community. This is my first ever speed game. I've been playing it for over a year now. And having someone who makes you feel welcome really makes a difference. So thank you, Palonxy. It was great having you here.
You're welcome.
And then as well, Hypnotics, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the chance to be on your show. And shout outs to the tech crew and moderators. There's a lot of people who go into making a show happen, and they do a lot of work that's behind the scenes, but really helps. It makes me feel a lot better knowing that there's people who have my back. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, chat, for being here. Hope you had fun. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. And if either people want to find you or Palonxy, are there any sort of socials that people can find you on? I assume you do a bit of streaming of this game, judging by the charity streams that you've been doing.
I do stream this game sometimes. You can find me on Twitter at _Charbunny, because the one I usually spell it as was taken. I actually have my stream schedule up for the rest of the year. The next one coming up tomorrow, I'll be doing an attempt at all levels, so trying to beat all of these levels out of level select for a sub 2 hour time. I have my 100% stream coming up a week from today, which is going to be terrifying, but will be fun. So lots of things to do there. I am twitch.tv/char_bunny if you would like to find me. Plonksy, do you want to do any socials plugging?
Just Google my name, POLONXY, you'll find everything. Or just yeah,
cool, huh?
YouTube channel usually has all my content.
Awesome, thanks.
Nice, brilliant. And if people want to sort of start running this game, I know that you said that there's a welcoming community behind it, but is there a sort of a space that they can find you in, whether it's on speedrun.com or Discord?
We have both of those, 2 for the price of 1. So speedrun.com is where the leaderboards are held. And then there is a link from speedrun.com to the Discord server. Everyone is welcome. You can definitely feel free to ask questions. Right now, the main topic is minimal A-press routing, which is just a ridiculously fun thing to be talking about. It's pretty interesting. Like I said, ILs, lots of things to learn. There's actually unrouted 100% ILs if anyone's interested in routing. So lots of things to try out with this game. It's very, very fun.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. That is us rounding up for this Going Places episode. Everybody, I hope that you've had an amazing time. Again, if you come in late, then you can check up with the VODs on the YouTube channel for Games Done Quick. I'm going to give a little spoiler for the next show. This will be happening 2 weeks from now. So not the next Saturday, but the one coming up. We will be getting a little festive, you know. We're gonna have a few sort of Christmas themed speedruns, because yes, of course, such things do exist. So make sure you hang around for that. Also, a little more sooner, we are going to be having PB Precipice tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, where a runner shows off. Well, they try and get a PB on the show, and yes, it was confirmed earlier, it is indeed Breath of the Wild, which I've got to confess, those speedruns look absolutely nuts, so that's definitely worth checking. So once again, thank you so much, you two. We are going to be signing off for the night, and yeah, everybody take care. We will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.